We are back for the afternoon session. It has been a busy lunch. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a law nerd. We're back. We're back. We're back for lunch. what what an afternoon. So, with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being law nerds. We are back for the afternoon session of the Alec Murdaugh double homicide case. A lot happened over the lunch break. I am going to roll the intro. I'm sorry that y'all couldn't find the stream. That was on our end. Apologies. A lot happened over lunch. If you follow my coverage, you know that I have followed the Tom Girardi case very closely. He's been indicted in 2 states, so lunch was a little busier than I anticipated it would be. So am I organized at the moment? No. Is this wild? Yes. Did this need to come down in the middle of this trial? No. But they are unsealed indictments. Wow. Y'all, a lot's going on, but we need to get back to this trial. Court is not back in session yet, thankfully for us. They take their sweet tea time. I feel like this court is on Emily time, and God bless for it because I need it today and every day. Thank you, Judge Clifton Newman, for giving your girl a little bit of a minute. So I'm glad to see everybody coming in. Let's get going. We're professionals here. You know what it is. You know what it is. Let's get going. Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not. Let's get into it. Court is not back in session yet, but we had a lot happened. A lot happened this morning. We had a lot of cell phone evidence. I don't know what we're going to get this afternoon for evidence. I don't know what witnesses we're going to have. Could we get the custodian of records from Snapchat and things like that? Absolutely could. Could this afternoon move on to the medical examiner? Absolutely could. I'm just not sure what the prosecution strategy would be. I think it would be smart to stay in the realm of technical data since we're here. It would be very interesting to see. So, y'all, I'm sorry. I didn't even really inhale lunch, so we're going to be eating a little bit while we're talking, and that not while we're listening to trial together. And what else? I don't know. I'm just kind of shooketh. So Girardi indictments I will talk about after stream. We're gonna try not to cross the streams. So Girardi indictments I'll talk about later. I put up a quick bit on that over on Emily D. Baker Quick Bits or on Instagram if you watch my reels there. So they are there. What else? What the prosecution's going to do next? I don't know. We have a new witness after lunch. I am running out of notepad. I'm going to have to grab another one. The things I need to do tonight, I need to figure out why my audio is in mono into my ears. I need to figure out why my pointer is not showing up where I think it should. We have a lot of things to do, and we've got a lot of Girardi to parse. It's just wild. All right, let me make sure my screen's ready to share. Look, we did it in advance. Okay. Court's like at least 5 minutes late, and I feel like I can breathe. So here we are. Here we are. Here we go. Here we are. It's time for the afternoon. I feel like I can breathe. Let us see what else. Emily Outdoor said, I think the orientation is likely the phone being handed in the car instead of being thrown. Maybe. Makes sense. Maybe. And it makes sense that it's locked when it was thrown. It does make sense. But the problem is if there's multiple reasonable explanations, then you've got to deal with the jury instruction, unreasonable doubt. And is it reasonable that there's doubt on each? Yes, it is. So right now we're at reasonable doubt and we're at presumption of innocence. We haven't crossed that threshold yet, I don't think. We will see if we do when court comes back. We will see I think the prosecution's going to be in their case in chief the rest of this week, and we will see how that goes. So my screen resolution might be different than the streaming screen. I'm not sure. We will see, but I'm glad y'all can find the stream now. I'm starting to see the stream numbers go up again. That was on our end, so apologies with that. I didn't check it before lunch. So, and then the second we logged off, I was trying to see that video again, the Snapchat video, and that's when I started seeing on Twitter that there were going to be indictments today in the Girardi case, and then the press conference started. So that's what we're doing. So with that, this morning was absolutely wild. Let's talk about this morning real quick. In court this morning, we went through cell phone evidence more. We got more of a timeline. I am going to start to put together that timeline more and go over that at the beginning tomorrow. I have not had time to go through and process that timeline much this afternoon. There are several reporters who I've been following with the timeline, and I'm going to pull those up now. Let's see. Or I'm going to try to anyway, because court's not back. So where am I going? Everything right now, it's like Girardi. I'm like, I know. But the thing is, we can't switch. We can't switch. We got to be here. We just have to be here. So that is what I'm trying to do, is to regain my focus after a wild lunch period. So I am looking for the timeline I was looking at earlier today. And I know I talked about it, and my brain is not functioning the way I want it to. Look, sometimes it gets spicy. Because it just is. All right, I pulled it up in my non-shared screen because we're professionals. I'm going to take a breath. Yep. All right, let's shift back into Girardi. Not brain. Oh, the court's coming back. I've been following Avery's timeline. He has been noting it down very well on Twitter and talking about the differences in evidence. So I have been following that pretty clearly.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Nothing from Murdaugh. Bring them on.
Oh, bring them on, he says today, instead of bring the jury. I like this judge so much. I really do. So I've been following the timeline that Avery has been doing, kind of a live tweet timeline thread. I will go back through my timeline and notes, his timeline and notes, and some of the others, and start putting those together. So Paul's step count is there, continued, and everything from the morning that you might have missed. I love bring them on. Wait, that's not what I meant to do. Instead of bring the jury. It was I like this judge a lot. I just really, really enjoy this judge. All right, let me try to make this screen a bit bigger and see where we're at this afternoon. The fact that Harpootlian has been missing most of the day is very odd to me. It's very unusual to me. Just very unusual to me that lead counsel has been noticeably missing most of the day. It's odd. Chris McCurry said Avery is a South Carolina journalist. God, Avery has been doing great. I can see in his Twitter banner he is holding a gamecock aloft. The landfowl, I suppose. And he has received South Carolina Journalist of the Year, but has been really doing a great breakdown of this case day in and day out. Oh, there's Dick. He's back. Day in and day out. So I've really appreciated how much of a breakdown we've gotten from him, and not just that, but his insight into the area, his insight into South Carolina. So that's where I've been following a lot of the timeline over on Avery Wilkes' Twitter. Can we glue Poot to his chair? I want to know what he's doing. I just want to know where he's going. I'm just curious. No, Siri, no. I'm just really, really curious. So I have Baxter. I have tried to work with my
The jury is present, sir.
with my
Sir,
screen,
thank you.
which I can't do while I'm
You may
streaming.
call your next witness.
Next witness.
Yes, sir.
Oh, this is our favorite prosecutor, I think. This is our My Cousin Vinny prosecutor, who's absolutely a delight to listen to. He's very dramatic. I like him a lot. All right, so we're to another law enforcement officer. I didn't catch the name yet. I feel like the cameras are so gained up, they're just picking up background noise. If this audio gets any worse, I'm going to switch feeds.
Spell your last name.
There we go.
My name is Dathan Brian Varnadoe. Last name is Varnadoe.
Varnadoe.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Dathan Varnadoe?
Yes, I go by Brian.
Okay. And your rank, sir?
I'm a sergeant.
Sergeant Varnadoe, would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury, please, about Brian Varnadoe, where you're from, your background, a little bit of your family, and
It's so interesting.
how
It's
you
like,
got in law enforcement?
tell them about
Right here
Varnadoe.
in Walterboro, South Carolina. I started in the Department of Corrections in 1996.
What's your favorite place to eat? He's
I
so
worked in the
funny the way
Department of
he
Corrections
acts that.
State Prison System for 18 years, and now I've been here with the Colleton County Sheriff's Office almost 10.
So he's at Carlton County.
Kind of soft. You just pull up and maybe speak in there a little bit if you don't mind, Sergeant. So you worked in the prison system for how long?
18
I'm sorry,
years.
I know you guys like Creighton.
Then
This
after
might be
that,
one of my
you
favorite prosecutors, though.
Came to Colleton?
Yes, I came to Colleton in 2013.
How's your mom?
Tell the folks
Like, I'm
what,
just waiting.
Different areas have you worked in Colleton?
In the sheriff's office, for about a year, I worked the road. Then in 2014, I went to investigations, primarily gang investigations, and I worked in that area until now present.
Tell them about your training in law enforcement. Y'all go through Criminal Justice Academy?
Criminal Justice Academy.
Periodic. Talk about it a little bit, please.
South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, I believe at that time it was 11 weeks. It changes. I was there 11 weeks, and we go through the basic training for law enforcement, through the legals,
Through the
traffic
legals.
stops,
I love
so
it.
forth. But and I also have training there in gang investigations. Also, they provide.
And are you married?
Yes,
How many children do you have?
I have two.
I appreciate
work?
that this
Yes,
prosecutor
works for the
has,
city of Walterboro.
has asked all of the witnesses
If I could,
he's
please take
talked
you
to
back,
if they're
Sergeant,
married and
to,
if they have kids.
June
I wouldn't want to be asked that in a criminal trial.
2021.
Like,
What
don't
was your
ask,
role-
but he's asked
your
everybody.
role with the Colleton County Sheriff's Department that day, please?
I worked investigations during that time also.
He's
Of course,
married.
the night of this incident, I was off at that time. I was called in later.
I was waiting for how's your mom and
And
them.
were you on call?
We
Did
somewhat
pretty much everybody get called in?
Yes, sir. All
will-
investigators got called in.
I'm just going to refresh it real quick. You guys are saying it's off time. He got called in
4147 Moselle Road
That's right.
in Colleton
to
County.
Moselle.
Colleton County.
Please tell the ladies and gentlemen, when you're coming up to Moselle, well, first of all, do you remember what entrance, how you went in?
Yes, I went in by the dog kennels, that entrance. Not all the way down the park, near the roadway, and walked in.
Had you been to that residence prior to June 7th when you got there in 2021?
It had been some years when I was on the road. I responded to an alarm call out there one time.
Years prior to this?
Yes.
Did you know where to go when you got there? I mean, what were you instructed to do? Do you know where to go on the property?
I was told that driveway where the dog kennels are, don't come in where the brick columns are.
So to go around the back. That's fair. Why do we need to beg the court's indulgence? We just got started. Literally just got started. It's so funny. This particular DA asks, or this particular attorney general asks, tell us about your family, tell us where you're from. It's very different to me because in California, if I ever asked a law enforcement officer, if you're married, what does your wife do and do you have kids? They would be like, what? And if I ever asked a female officer, are you married, do you have kids? The jury would be like, why are you asking her if she has kids? It just, what? Just what? It's just so peculiar to me. Normally it's training and experience and your background in law enforcement, not, where'd you go to high school? Did you play ball with the defendant's kids? I mean, I suppose that's appropriate in this case. But yeah, I don't know why we already need to beg the court's indulgence, but it's funny. And the other attorney generals don't all do it. But I like this. I find this particular prosecutor very charming, where Creighton comes out of the gate like a racehorse, just like this attorney is just like, how's your mom and them? And I love it. I love it so much.
Stage 303, Sergeant, I've never shown you this before, have I?
No.
Do you recognize this is an aerial view of Moselle? And where you responded?
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, without objection, 303.
I'm
And you
trying to
said
share
you
this
came
out.
in the second
It's
entrance?
loud.
Yes, you want to point to it?
Can you do that?
So they're pointing to the entrance they're coming
Park somewhere in
into
this area.
from Moselle, near the dog
And I'll
kennels,
walk the
because
rest of the way.
you can exit to the road
And
from the
Sergeant,
dog kennels. I
you get out
appreciate
of
that.
your
That's
car
going to be
and
relevant.
Tell them what you did now.
When I got on scene, there was other emergency vehicles there. Other investigators had beat me there. Pretty much I made contact with my supervisor and asked him what it needed to be, what area he needed to be in, what he needed me doing.
And who is your supervisor?
Captain Jason Chapman.
And what did he tell you or ask you to do, or instruct you to do?
He instructed me to find Mr. Alex Murdaugh and take GSR of his hands.
Oh, I had moved
Gunshot
captions up.
residue.
I'm sorry. I thought they had stayed.
Prior to that,
Oh, I restarted.
did you have
And
an
I forgot.
occasion, did you see the bodies of who we all know now are Paul and Maggie? Did you see their bodies?
I moved them
Yes.
up and then I restarted, and then my brain thought I'd already done
Did
it.
you get close to them or inspect them?
I didn't expect him, maybe 10 feet, maybe.
Okay.
He's not
So
the
you had
corner.
to see them from a distance, is
Yes.
that fair?
So we don't know yet what.
So your captain had instructed that you
This witness is
find
here for.
Alex Murdaugh and attempt to get a GSR kit, or to take GSR from him?
Administer a kit to, yes, sir.
Oh, so he did the
I don't think there'll be
GSR.
any objection to this. Tell the folks, what is the GSR?
Well, it stands for gunshot residue. The kit itself tests for gunshot
Again,
residue on
this can go both
the
ways.
hands is where it's administered to the hands of an individual.
At the Colleton County Sheriff's Department and maybe other places.
'Cause he was out shooting earlier.
Collect that from an individual?
Yes.
He was out shooting with his son earlier.
And,
It's pretty self-explanatory.
okay, pretty simple procedure.
That's right.
Had you taken GSR from a person
I heard it.
prior to
I have not
this?
yet seen
Yes.
it.
Okay. How many times? You got any idea?
20.
Now, when you got there, how far was the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, from where you were? Where was he? When you were told to go check his hands,
He was, at this time when I saw him, he was behind the yellow tape they had up the backside. It's actually, there's an area between the sheds or the dog kennels and his home.
okay. And after the captain had asked you to do that, what'd you do?
I went and got a kit and approached Mr. Murdaugh.
Had you ever seen Alex Murdaugh before that night?
Yes,
Okay. Did you know him before that night?
yes.
Okay. Well, can you tell us how you knew him?
I testified as an expert witness in one of his cases.
An expert witness?
Yes.
When he was a lawyer.
Is that the gang which you said earlier you're back?
Yes, it had to do with a gang case.
Oh. Tell us what? There's only like one case Murdaugh prosecuted.
And do you mind, what'd you testify to?
It was some terminology that was used in a phone call, and he wanted, in my area of expertise with gang lingo and gang slang, he wanted me to testify to a statement that was said on a phone call.
So you weren't involved in the actual case?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Defendant Alex Murdaugh asked you to come testify as an expert?
Yes.
Okay. And was he sitting over here at the time at this table?
Yes.
I mean, the prosecution table?
Prosecution table, yes.
In this courtroom?
It was here at Hampton, I'm not 100% sure.
In a courtroom?
Right.
Well, I'm curious, what were you called to testify about?
Like I said, it was some terminology used in a phone call.
Is the courthouse near a fire station? Yes, this is right in the main.
What were you asked to testify the terminology?
Area.
I'm just curious.
An individual was on the phone telling someone to go and get the whistle, and he wanted me to clarify what that term.
Why is
Get the
it
whistle?
Yes.
any of this relevant?
What
He was referring to a firearm.
Why is any of this relevant to the
whistle. So you were
gunshot
interpreting
residue?
that a whistle meant a firearm?
Right.
Counsel?
And the inmate wanted somebody to do something with the whistle?
What in the fucking
That's what I
hell?
was told the phone call was about, yes.
Okay. Did you testify?
I did.
And when was that?
It's probably been 5-6 years.
I don't know how any of this is relevant.
So on June 7th of 2021, when you saw the defendant, did he recognize you as far as you can tell?
Yes,
Okay. Did he recognize you as far as you could tell?
yes,
Did he say your name?
yes,
Okay, did you say his name?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
And,
they knew each other.
Can you tell the jury how you went about to do your job?
I'm sorry, say again?
How'd you go about doing your job? What'd you do? What'd you say to him?
I approached him, I had the kid, and I went to Mr. Murdaugh and told him I had to administer this kid to his hands.
Did you say, I'm sorry, I have to
He said
administer
he
this?
understood-
Because I
he
feel
understood
like
the
you probably
procedure.
did.
And just a few minutes.
I feel like he was probably
I
like,
was on
sorry,
his
sir.
way.
You know what, we gotta do what we gotta do.
I do think not to do, but Your Honor, can he come down here? Yes. Please.
I appreciate that he asked the court. Can you come down here? Yes.
I'm going
No.
to show you what's been
Don't
marked
forget to
Stage
do the
301.
YouTube things.
Do you
We'll look at the
recognize this
Snapchat video
kit
that's
in
now
general?
available after.
And if you look inside,
No, different, no.
okay, would you look inside?
This sound is peaking so bad.
Do you recognize this?
Carol
Yes,
asked if the
type of
witnesses
kit.
know
Is
each
this
other,
the
how can
type
they
of
not be
kit you
biased?
used on
This
the
witness
defendant,
collected
Alex
gunshot
Murdaugh,
residue?
June 7th of 2021?
So it's kind of a basic just roll the kit. But this comes up when the Carlton County sheriffs
Same idea.
recused themselves off the case and
Well, they
SLED
used to
took
have 4,
over.
but now they have 2, correct?
And then the local prosecutor,
On 301 without objection.
the local prosecutor took themselves off the case.
I made it.
And the Attorney
Stay
General's
here.
office took over. So
Let's pull out
yes,
301 and just show the jury what you did. And I got some questions, Sarge.
that
You okay?
sound.
I'm good?
Okay. What's the first thing you do when you get ready to take a gunshot residue from somebody?
Well, I don't use I have my own gloves. I put
Okay.
on gloves.
Can you let
before
him
I
go sit
administer
down,
this
please,
kit
counsel?
Okay.
To the individual.
All right.
I explain to him what I'm doing and what it's for.
Keep your voice up, please.
Yes, sir. I explain to him what it's for and why I'm doing it.
Okay. And you looking at them?
Yes,
How far are you from them?
about you and I.
Okay. And this night, let's go back there right now to June 7th. Are you looking at
It's
Mr.
so
Murdaugh?
dramatic.
Okay. Y'all knew each other?
Yes.
Did you smell the alcohol on him?
No.
Okay.
That's
Did
fair.
he appear to be under the influence of anything to you? Alcohol, drugs, anything else?
No.
That's fair. They didn't qualify
Could he
this.
understand
witness
what Brian
as an expert with
Varnadoe was
regard to that,
asking
but-
him as far as you knew? Did he understand your questions?
Yes, as far as I knew.
And could you understand his responses? Just talking.
Oh, I'm sure he apologized. I'm
And,
sure he said,
were
sir, I'm
his
sorry, I'm
answers
just
to
doing my
you
job.
timely?
Yes, there were.
Subject matter appropriate?
Yes.
I'm sure Alec was
When
apologized to
you
all night,
ask
'cause
him to,
every
if
time
you could take a
he
gunshot
talked to
residue,
somebody, he
did
goes, I know you're doing your job. Every
Comply?
time he talked to
Comply.
somebody, I know.
And I believe there were just 2 used this time. They used to do 4.
Yep.
Can you show the jury how you do it specifically?
I've never, ever seen anybody say, can you,
Label for self-explanatory
okay.
on here. Have the
Great.
left hand.
If
right
you
hand.
ever were curious about GSR, here you go.
You mind touching me and just do it on me like you did on him?
I can-
Do you just mind touching me? Counsel, what in the show and tell is happening in this courtroom right now?
Come on.
Okay. But we definitely saw Alec telling all the police that night, I know you're doing your job. I know, it's okay. Ask me what you need to ask
All
me.
right, what's that one
I'm
marked
sure
on
most
there?
of the officers on scene
This is for
apologized to
left
him.
hand.
Okay.
It has a flat surface on the inside of the cap. Touch all the fingers, thumb, put the hand over the back of the hand,
So the jury gets to see
full extent of the fingers.
the GSR recreation.
Can you place it back?
Yes, and you put it back inside the bag,
Okay.
and you move on to the next one.
All right.
Do the same thing with the other hand.
Same
Okay.
thing with the other hand.
Yes.
Go ahead and do it, please.
I think the defense is going to lean into the GSR because Alec doesn't have a ton of GSR on him. And so they're just going to be like, okay, well, shouldn't there be more? That's going to be their
And so
argument.
this
And he
whole
was out
time you're that close
shooting
to him when
earlier in
you're
the
doing
day, and we
that?
know
Yes.
he was shooting earlier
Were
in the
his
day.
hands shaking?
I do not recall his hand shaking.
It's a good question.
Now, after you do that, and I got a couple other questions, I'll let you sit down.
Can you let him go sit down?
Okay.
Do you, to be right where we are now, to tell them what we're doing, do you document it?
Yes.
Okay. And, Jim.
This is so awkward. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so,
I'll show you
as a
what's
trial
300.
attorney.
Does this relate to what we're
this
doing
makes
right
me so
now, Sarge?
uncomfortable.
It does.
And you're on a 300 without objection?
Admitted.
I love that the
Now,
attorney's saying 300 with no
does it say
objection.
what time you just took that gunshot?
Before the defense says no objection.
Gunshot residue evidence from the defendant.
Yes, it's right here at the bottom.
And did you fill this out?
I did.
Can you just
Put
tell
your
us
name
what
at
it
the
is?
top?
We can't see.
Badge number?
Everything but this. This is not me.
Can you just tell us
And
what
date
time?
of birth. It's got the suspect's name, Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Right.
And his date of birth's what?
5/27/68.
Now, you didn't know that, did you? You didn't know
No.
his date of birth. So
No.
did you have to ask him?
Yes.
Did he have any trouble telling you his date of birth?
No.
Okay. So you put that down when he told you. Subject is living, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's, we'll bring that out with SLED later, but you took the sample off a live individual?
Yes.
No question about it. All right. And you filled out the rest of the
Their
form,
backs
correct?
to the
I did.
jury.
No gunshot wound?
No.
No, it says
There's a
any
little
debris or
bar.
blood or subject, this is what the form says. Any debris or
Could you
blood
invite
or
the jury to
subjects
your
on the hand, and what do you
conversation?
want?
No.
So
What are
does
you
that
doing?
mean you had to look at his hands to mount no?
Yes.
Okay, and so when you were looking at his hands,
Why is your back to the jury?
did you see any debris or blood on suspect's hands?
No, I did not.
And you looked at it?
Right.
Okay. How would you describe it?
Well, I recall his hand was clean.
And underneath here, it says lawyer, Honey, the rest of it
Well,
said
they asked
evidence.
some questions, yeah.
Okay, all right. And he signed it, correct?
No.
Okay, that's your signature. My bad, I couldn't see. Okay. One final question while I've got you up here. Did you observe what he was wearing?
What time
His
did you
shirt,
take the
his shorts,
GSR?
his shoes?
I do not remember his shoes or his.
What time did you
pants
take the
or what he had
GSR,
on.
though?
I do remember his shirt.
Okay. And can you describe the shirt?
It was a white T-shirt.
Did it appear to have any blood on it from looking right here?
No, naked eye, I didn't see any.
Okay. Did it appear to be dirty?
No.
And is this also the chain of custody that you filled out for the GSR?
Yes.
Okay, and you turned it over, I believe, to Agent Worley?
They're all just having their own
Okay.
little conversation
I believe 12 without objection, you can have a seat.
to the court reporter.
Admitted.
The jury is behind them. The jury is literally to their back. So the two of them have their back, and they're like having a whole conversation with their freaking back to the jury. What are you doing? We were so entertained, sir. So entertained. We were so entertained earlier.
Now, if referring to states 300 again, down at the bottom, it's got date and time shooting occurred, it's got 6/7/21.
So the shooting occurred, yes.
Okay, and where'd you get that information from?
From other people on the scene.
Okay, and time, what time does it have by there?
I have 10 p.m.
And where'd you get that from? Do you know?
More likely it was my supervisor told me on the scene.
When was the GSR taken, please? Please. Excuse me? Counsel? I know you pointed to where it was on the paper while you had your back to the jury where none of us could tell what you were talking about, but you didn't say what time he took the GSR and how long after it was. Can we just maybe clarify that? Why are we so unprepared? I am so annoyed. I can't. This is a very fast witness that should only have 2 items of
Time is
evidence to
collected
consider.
was 11:15, correct?
That's
Thank
correct.
you. They should have had exactly the papers that he needed to testify to when he came up. This is after lunch.
Individual you described as.
What
his
were you
hands is
doing
clean
at
to the
lunch?
courtroom.
Yes, he is.
Would you please point him out for the ladies and gentlemen?
He has a gray blazer and white button-up shirt.
We'd like the record to reflect, that's all we have. Thank you, Judge.
Yes, cross-examination.
You're not going to ask him more about GSR?
Deputy Varnadoe,
Okay.
this individual right here, the defendant Murdaugh,
So
Richard
unorganized.
Alexander Murdaugh, consented to you taking his DSR, correct?
Yes.
And he cooperated with you fully that night, correct?
Yes, he did.
And you had talked about a case that he had worked, and he was a prosecutor of a criminal drug case in this courthouse or maybe Hampton, but,
Right.
right? And you worked on that case, not only with Richard Alexander Murdaugh, but his father, Randolph Murdaugh, correct?
That's correct.
And that was a drug prosecution of a defendant who was suspected to be involved in the Cowboys drug gang, is that correct?
He was an affiliate, yes.
Oh, good God.
And that was a dangerous outfit that a lot of folks were prosecuted. Is that correct?
Objection!
Basis for the objection. No.
Calls for facts,
Could you
not
ask the question
evidence.
again, please?
The Cowboys were known for being dangerous. in this
Why
area,
are we
correct?
trying to introduce?
Yes, sir.
I don't know why the prosecution went
And-
down that road,
And-
but
in
the
that
defense is
case,
going to be like, he
I think you
prosecuted
you
one
thought
gang
maybe
member.
5 years, but it could have been
Maybe.
sooner than that, 2 or 3 years ago.
It could have been. It's been some years. I'm not sure exactly what year it was.
Yes. Now,
Why?
you were shown this aerial photograph and
Just why?
this is exhibit number 303.
This case literally has nothing to do with that.
Have you been out to the property since the night on June the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this aerial photograph, you don't know what date this photograph was taken, do you?
I do not.
But you do know that this land here, frankly, right through there, were you aware that at one point in time, that area right there was used as a runway?
I did not know that.
But you do know that pine trees were planted
What
all
were they
through
flying in
here,
and out of that
correct?
property?
And
There are trees there, yes.
there's a stand of pine
Which
trees
way are we going with
there
this?
that are not in this photograph.
Ladies and gentlemen, drug
That's fair.
runners,
Okay, thank you.
flying planes onto Moselle.
And the
Good Lord.
now the form, if I can find it, sir. The collection form asked,
I don't know why they are going through this at all.
it says subject's full name, and the subject was Mr. Murdaugh.
Because there is no
That's correct.
actual evidence of any of that
And-
in this case.
And did you,
This case.
I mean, was he cordial and respectful
Oh, yes.
to you?
Great.
Yes.
And you've been around him on multiple occasions, I take it, working on that case and perhaps other things?
A few times, yes.
And in your presence, has he always been respectful to law enforcement?
Yes.
Has always treated you with respect?
Yes.
Did he treat you with respect on the night of June the 7th?
Yes, he did.
And did he tell you he understood that you had to do a job and take his gunshot residue off his hands, correct?
That's right.
And he was shook up, was he not?
Yes, he was shook up.
Now, you showed how the collection is done and how you put the stamp on the front and on the back. Did
If
you
the
do
term
a
whistle
thorough
doesn't come up
collection
later, I'll
of
be
Mr.
very annoyed.
Murdaugh's hands that night?
Yes.
Paula, he didn't
And
test the kit.
Did you intentionally leave any part of his hand untested?
No.
And you did your level best to get every particle of
But yes,
GSR
there was
off
GSR.
his hands, according to using that equipment that you had. is
The
that right?
way I was trained and taught, yes.
And were you aware that earlier in the night, after he called 911, that he went up to the house to get a shotgun and came back down? And when first responding deputy
Objection, compound,
I believe it was
AF.
Green, came to the scene, that he seized that shotgun? Did you know that when you got
At that time, no.
You learned it later?
Yes.
And you're aware that gunshot residue can transfer from a gun onto a subject's hands, correct?
It's possible.
Okay. Now, you don't do any testing of gunshot residue, do you?
No.
Nope.
That's done back at the SLED lab?
That's
Yep.
right.
Okay.
He collected
And
it.
you didn't test any gunshot residue, well, I scratched that, I apologize. Did you collect any gunshot residue or attempt to collect any gunshot residue off any other part of Mr. Murdaugh's body?
No,
So you didn't try to take anything off his legs or?
no, the test is not for that.
Okay. Later that evening, his clothes were collected for gunshot residue testing. Were you involved in that in any form or fashion?
No,
Okay. He collected the GSR that was tested by other people later. That's
Deputy
it?
Varnadoe, I'm going to show you an exhibit,
And we now know more about the runway that used to be
Exhibit 59.
an actual
I just want to ask
plane
you
runway
if
on Moselle.
59 fairly and accurately depicts Paul Murdaugh as you saw him lying on the ground outside the feed room that night.
yes,
Did he test Paul
Your Honor,
for GSR?
Introduced Defendants 59 into evidence
If he
under seal.
if he tested Paul for GSR,
I'm
we
not
should have
gonna
heard about
publish it.
that.
We just need to get it in for the record without objection, I believe.
That's correct.
Submitted.
Because if he somebody probably tested
have
Paul for
reports of
GSR.
both.
This is so wild.
Just one follow-up, he was asking about that case you testified in. So Alex Murdaugh did he call you as an expert on how to interpret whistle from an inmate's phone call who was trying to hide a weapon?
that's what I understood it to be, yes.
Whistle.
I wasn't part of the actual investigation.
Anything further? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If the prosecution is going to go with
We call the
Alex
next witness.
Murdaugh heard one
Your
guy
Honor, we
on
call
one
Rogan
call.
Gibson.
Oh, I got to talk fast because Rogan Gibson's going to testify. If the prosecution's going to go with Paul Murdaugh or Alec Murdaugh heard on one call, one guy try to hurt a gun one time, or try to hide a gun one time, I'm going to lose my mind. Like that, what? He had one jail phone call interpreted. All right, this will be interesting. All right, we're moving on to Rogan Gibson. This can't be easy for him to be here to testify. I was not expecting that we would get to civilian witnesses this afternoon or before the coroner testified. That's really interesting. So this will be direct examination of Rogan Gibson.
Rogan Gibson, Gibson.
God, that witness chair is awkward.
Mr. Gibson, how you doing today?
Good.
I asked the court reporter something. We'll give her a chance to catch up.
Okay.
You good? Mr. Gibson, I want you to introduce yourself to the jury a little bit. Tell us, where you grew up, where you went to high school, just a little bit about yourself before we get to your testimony.
Tell us about your mom
I
and
went to
them.
Wade Hampton High School. I'm from Hampton.
All right. And you working now?
Don't lean in.
I am.
Please
All right.
don't.
What field do you work in?
The agriculture field.
All right. Why don't you see if you can pull that mic up just a little bit and scoot up just a hair so you're speaking into
That
for
witness
Jay.
stool looks so awful.
You said you're working in agriculture, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And currently still working in agriculture?
That's correct.
Back in June of 2021, what were you doing? Working in agriculture?
That's correct. Farming.
What kind of job did you have?
I was farming, operating equipment.
Operating equipment. Okay. And let me ask you, did you get to know Paul Murdaugh?
I did.
All right. And tell me, how old were you when you got to know Paul Murdaugh?
I've known him all my life, real good, probably when I was 11, 12 years old.
And how did y'all get to meet one another? How did you become closer?
I lived next to him
Okay. And when did that happen?
when I was 11, 12 years old.
11 to 12? Y'all went to school together?
Paul was a little bit younger than me, and I didn't go to school with him.
Okay. When y'all were growing up, what kind of things y'all like to do together?
We enjoyed the outdoors, hunting, fishing, hanging around the farm.
Were you close friends with Paul until the day he was murdered?
I was.
Tell the jury just a little bit about Paul. Give them just a little sense of who he was as a person.
He loved the outdoors, hunting, fishing, hanging around. Really enjoyed the farm out there at Moselle.
Fun guy to be around?
He was.
Over the years, as you got to be closer friends with Paul, did you get to be closer friends with the rest of the family?
I was.
And was that just
I mean, he was
Paul
texting
and
his mom.
his brother and his parents, or was it sort of the Murdaughs, the larger family as well?
The whole family.
And over those years, as you became close with them, how close would you say? How close did you become?
Real close, like a second family.
Like a second family to you?
Yes, sir.
Paul, did you have a nickname for him, or did he have a nickname?
Rooster.
His brother Buster, did he have a name or a nickname?
Called him Bus.
Bus. What'd you call Maggie?
Miss Maggie.
Oh,
What did you call Mr. Randolph, Paul's grandfather?
Handsome.
Handsome.
his voice crack is gonna absolutely break my heart.
How about Miss Libby, his wife, Paul's grandmother?
M.
Yeah.
So M
How
went
about
by
Maggie's parents? Did you have
M.
nicknames for them?
I called him Papa T and Grandma.
Papa T and Grandma?
That's
Like
correct.
M-A-R at the end?
That's correct.
What'd you call Alec?
Mr. Ellick, or Big Red.
Mr. Alec the Big Red.
He's gonna identify that
You said
Snapchat
they were like
video.
a second family to you.
That's correct.
You heard,
Being
I heard
that
his
close
voice
to
crack
this
when he was
family,
talking
did you
about Miss
frequently go
Maggie.
out to Moselle?
All the time.
Did you ever go to, did they have other properties too that you ever went to?
He did.
What were the other properties they had? And hold up for the sirens, if you will.
So he identified the family members. He will probably deal with the Snapchat video and identifying the voices on the Snapchat video. It was sent to him.
Edisto Beach, we went there a lot.
M, the letter M
The
is
house at
Libby.
Esto Beach?
That's correct.
And any other properties while you were growing up?
Paul's
That
grandmother.
you recall?
The property in Hampton, the house in Hampton.
All right. Yeah, did they ultimately sell that property?
They did.
You remember about how long ago that was?
Not real sure.
When you would go out, when did they get Moselle? I mean, just roughly.
I believe it was like my freshman year in high school, so 14,
2014, something like that?
no, it was, I graduated in 14, so probably around 2010 maybe.
Okay. And over the years, did you spend a lot of time out there?
I did.
What were some of the things that you would do with Paul out there?
We would hunt, fish, just hang around.
Ride around the property?
We work the food plots, equipment.
I got States 303 right here, this poster board. Can I ask you to come on down with the judge's permission, and let's kind of point out some things to the jury.
I think it'll be easier to do the Snapchat video last. I imagine the prosecution will leave the Snapchat video for
Do you
last
recognize this image?
because it will be
What
emotional.
is that? Keep your voice up if you could.
The defense is going to ask about this family,
overview of the Moselle property.
their relationship
And where's
with
the
each other.
residence in this picture?
Right here.
And is there a driveway to that residence?
That would be the main driveway.
Do you see Moselle Road on this particular image? Going right down there? All right. What's this red roof building right there?
That's the old airplane hangar.
Okay. And did y'all have a name for that? Did you call it the hangar?
Yeah, the shed.
I mean, that's
Shed or
later.
the hangar? Any other structures out there?
That was the newer shed, the tractor shed. The dog kennel.
Okay.
And that's the skinning shed.
Skin and shed? And just real quick, what's the skin and shed
For
for?
this process. Wild game out there. Skinning wild game out there.
Was there a driveway to that part of the property?
There was.
Is that where it went right there?
What's that?
That's where it went right there that you just pointed?
Yeah, the driveway to the shed's right there.
Was that driveway commonly used?
It was.
Was there, what's the structure right here?
That's the old cabin.
Creighton is right on top of the microphone.
And how about across the street? Was
It's tough.
there any structures across the street?
There was.
All right, what was it there across?
Shooting house.
All right, and can you just point roughly where that be? Right at the top of the picture? Okay. All right, and what is this right here?
The pond.
All right.
This
When
is
y'all
the-
were, what was the shooting house used for?
We were sighting rifles.
Shooting?
down at that angle. Over the target down here.
Would y'all shoot rifles from the shooting house?
We would.
What about shotguns? Would y'all
This
shoot
is
those
the
over at that
first
shooting area?
time
Yeah, most of the time we shot them around the pond.
the jury
Around
has
the
gotten a
pond.
good overview of the property. They should have done this much sooner.
Is this a line of trees right here?
It is.
And on the other side of that line of trees, what did y'all call that?
The dove field.
The dove field?
The jury struggled through,
All right, you can go ahead and have a seat.
All-
for me, thank you.
or I assume, through all of the shotgun collection and all of that without an overview of the property. We're on day 8. not day 8 of testimony, but day 8 of this trial, and they're just getting a good overview of the property. That's a little frustrating to me. So,
You mentioned that
We'll
y'all
do
like
the
to
Snapchat
ride
later.
the property and shoot and hunt
I've
out
seen it.
there. Is that right?
That's correct.
or I
What
see
kind
that
of
it's
hunting would y'all do out there?
there.
Anything we could hunt,
Okay. Well, give me some examples if you would, please.
hog hunt, deer, turkeys,
Okay. Hog hunting, deer, and turkeys.
dove, quail.
Let me ask you this: turkey season. Do you know when that is in South Carolina?
It's like March, mid-March to early May.
Okay. All right. So it's a fairly short period of time in that time period.
That's correct.
You mentioned hogs first. Tell me about the hog hunting. How would y'all go hog hunting?
A lot of times we'd shoot them at night with a thermal scope.
Okay. And what weapon would y'all use to shoot those hogs?
300
with thermal
blackout?
scope?
300 blackout.
And whose weapon was that?
I think it was Buster's.
Okay. Well, tell me about what you know about the blackouts, how the family got those blackouts.
They bought 2 of them, one for Paul and one for Buster.
Okay. And can you describe those two? Did you see both of them back in the day?
They were similar build. One was black, one was like a green tannish color.
Okay. And did anything ever happen to one of them?
Yes,
This-
one of them was stolen.
This witness
And were you
box is
present
so
when that happened or around
awkward.
when that happened?
I wasn't present, I was just told about it.
All right. And what was the story you were told about that?
I was told somebody took it out of Paul's truck at a party.
At a party? Okay. How long ago was that?
I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, years?
Yes, it's been 5, 6 years probably.
Okay. All right, let me show you something real quick.
The witness
I'm going
stand
to show you
is
what's already
so
been entered into
awkward to
evidence.
me.
It states 163. I'm going to have you look at that image and particularly what's there on that pool table. Do you recognize that?
That's a picture of a 300 blackout.
All right. And is that the one that you and Paul would take hog hunting?
Yes, that's one of them.
He's just tying all of that together.
You said one got stolen. To your knowledge, was there ever a replacement gun?
I don't remember a replacement. No,
You
sir.
don't remember replacement. You remember Paul using the black one, is that right?
That's correct, or either the green and tan one before it was stolen.
Before it was stolen,
That's correct.
5 or 6 years ago.
So the
Correct.
green one was stolen, or the tan one was stolen.
What other guns did Paul use a lot that he favored?
He favored a super black Eagle shotgun, 12 gauge.
All right, let me show you another image if I could. I'm going to show you what's already been admitted into evidence. It states 3.
Yeah, it seems tremendously
And see if you
uncomfortable.
recognize that.
I do.
All right, tell me what that is.
That's a super black Eagle.
All right, and do you specifically recognize that gun?
Yes,
And what gun is that?
that's Paul's gun.
And how can you tell?
The camo pattern and the strap.
That's the shotgun that Alec Murdaugh grabbed that night.
Would Paul frequently have weapons with him when he was on the property or in his truck or that sort of thing?
He would.
All right, what sort of weapons would he frequently have with him?
A lot of times he carried the 300 blackout in his vehicle, and then, sometimes pistols, different shotguns. But
All right, would he carry that shotgun a lot as well?
yes, I have seen him carry that shotgun.
How is that question not leading? It's all just leading. Nobody cares. Like, everybody's just like, meh, whatever. Noticed in depth, we heard how many objections we heard, how many sidebars we've had. Very few objections in this trial at all. Very few objections to leading at all. It's all technically leading. I guess if they feel like it doesn't assume an answer that the witness might not know, they just don't care.
See that box of gloves right there?
I haven't seen a single sidebar. Not a single sidebar. There's been nothing that they've argued over. All of their
you look in here and see if you
discrepancies
recognize
over
that.
evidence have been dealt with before the jury comes in.
That's super black Eagle 3 of Paul's.
That's Paul's favorite shotgun?
That's correct.
This is going to be the shotgun that Alec had that night that had the 12 gauge and the 16 gauge that's got the camo pattern on it that the police recovered. Okay. So it's interesting watching different courtrooms work. I also don't think I've ever been in a courtroom so loaded up with firearms.
What about deer? Did he have a weapon he liked hunting deer with?
He did. It was a 7mm 08.
Okay. Did Paul ever have any pistols to your knowledge, or carry around any pistols?
He did sometimes. You know.
Sometimes. What were his favorite two guns? Or the most guns he most commonly had around?
Probably that 300 and Super Black Eagle. That's the ones I've seen him use the most.
Tell me about a little bit about the hog hunting. You said
This
y'all would
guy
hunt
was
them at
so
night.
hard for him.
That's correct.
All right. And tell me how that works. What would y'all do? Y'all walking around? Y'all riding around? How does that go?
Most of the time we drove four-wheeler vehicle. We didn't hardly ever walk, but that scope, the thermal scope would pick up the heat
Okay. And where on the property would y'all hunt?
all over.
The hogs you hunt all over?
That's correct.
When you and Paul were together hunting with that blackout, did you usually have the gun and shooting, or did Paul usually have the gun and shooting?
It just depends.
Who had the gun more?
Probably Paul.
One guy's driving, the other guy's looking?
That's correct.
Is that something y'all did frequently?
A good bit, yes, sir.
If y'all ever killed a hog, what would y'all do with it?
Sometimes we would give it to people that wanted to butcher it. Sometimes we just let nature take its course, just leave it wherever it was shot at. It just depends. Sometimes we skin them out ourselves.
They're going to talk a lot about hunting,
Are
y'all.
hogs a nuisance animal?
They are.
If hunting is not your thing, I understand.
We're talking a little
We'll
bit
see you
about
back here in a little bit.
Paul and who he was. How was Paul with his cell phone?
He was on his cell phone a lot.
Let me ask you a little bit about Miss Maggie. You mentioned before that the family had a couple of properties. In the summertime, where did Miss Maggie prefer to stay?
She liked to stay at Edisto
And did you know why she preferred Edisto?
because of the yellow flies at Moselle.
The yellow flies?
That's correct.
Edisto's
What
the
about
beach house.
Paul and Alec? Where would they stay most of the time?
Well, Paul, if he was back home, he'd stay at Moselle, but a lot of times he was in Columbia or Charleston.
Did he have an apartment in Charleston?
Not to my knowledge in Charleston, no.
I'm sorry, in Columbia. I meant.
In Columbia, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So when he wasn't in the city, it was
Back in June 7th of 2021, you were working in agriculture,
That's correct.
working in farming,
That's correct.
hard work.
Yes, sir.
What time do you have to get up in the morning to go to work?
Normally get up about 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Where were you staying at that point in time?
I was staying at my girlfriend's house in Beaufort.
In Beaufort? You don't have to say her last name. What was her first name?
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann? Okay. And why were you staying at Beaufort at that period, at that point in time? Was that where your house was or not?
No, my house was not there. I was working on St. Helena. It made it a closer ride for me to go to work.
Yellow flies
So
are
you're staying with
biting
your girlfriend
flies.
because of that?
That's correct.
They hurt.
Did you have a dog at that time?
I did.
They hurt.
And what kind of dog?
Chocolate lab.
Chocolate lab?
They hurt.
Still have the chocolate lab?
I do.
What's the dog's name?
Cash.
Cash. How old was Cash about that time?
Cash like Johnny Cash?
I'm guessing he was a puppy, 4, 6 months old maybe.
Were you able to keep Cash with you when you were staying at your girlfriend's in Beaufort?
I was not able to
And why was that?
because she wasn't allowed. She was renting a house. We couldn't keep one there.
What arrangements did you make for Cash when you were staying in Beaufort and you couldn't keep him at your girlfriend's house?
I would leave him at the kennels at Moselle.
And tell me how that came to be. How did you work that out?
I asked Mr. Ellick if I could leave him there. I would be gone at a week at a time. Just leave him there for a week, pick him back up when I come back home on the weekend.
All right. Did you leave food for him and that sort of thing?
I did.
So where was he staying when he was at?
Yeah, Cash is the
Moselle
dog
during week
in
when
the
you were
video.
working
In the kennel.
in the kennel? Describe the kennels a little bit for the jury. What was the structure like?
It was like a lean-to shed with about somewhere around 8 kennels under it, feed room on the end.
And Cash was staying in one of those.
That's correct.
You'd go get him on the weekend.
Friday night or either Saturday. Yes.
Where would you take him then?
Back to my house
All right. And just
Yes.
where were you
Cash
living
is
at
the
that
dog in the
time?
kennel.
in Colleton County.
In Carlton.
Cash is the dog in the kennel. This is one of
You get up
Paul
at
Murdagh's
5
best
a.m. and get
friends.
to work. About what time do you get to work, working farming?
I'd roughly get to work somewhere around 7, 7:30.
7:30? And then what time would you get
A
off?
lot of a drive.
It all depended.
What time
I
typically would
mean,
you get out?
5, 6, 7 o'clock.
Just depending on how much work need to get done?
That's correct.
Were you pretty tired when you got home?
I was.
This is possibly explaining why he didn't answer Alex calls, maybe? That he was
During
tired
the
when he got
course
home?
of that day, June 7th, 2021,
This is gonna get a lot
did you
harder
have any
for this
communications with
witnesses.
Paul?
I did.
What's the first one you remember?
Sometime around lunchtime.
All right. What did y'all communicate? Did y'all talk on the phone? Did y'all text or what?
Yeah, I think he called me and told me about the sunflowers had been sprayed in the Dove field and they were dead.
They were real upset about the
What
sunflowers.
did he say about that?
Said that he was getting ready to replant them.
They've been sprayed with some Roundup or something?
That's correct.
Did y'all talk about anything else that you remember?
Not that I remember.
So the sunflowers had died in the Dove field. They were going to replant the sunflowers. It's my understanding
Well,
that
I'm
the
thinking about
sunflowers
it.
bring the birds.
I asked you
so
about
they can
Paul's
hunt?
use of a cell phone. Do you know where he kept his cell phone when it wasn't in his hand?
Most of the time in his pockets.
Was he typically one to respond pretty quick to you? If y'all were
Normally.
talking about something?
Normally, yeah, we were talking about something. He would respond pretty quick.
We're going to get back into the Snapchat video
That
with this
evening,
witness.
well,
I
did you
believe
call-
this witness will identify all
Did
the
you talk to Paul
voices.
again after that initial conversation?
I did.
All right, and when was that, roughly?
Around 8:40.
Okay. And what was that conversation about?
He called and asked if something was wrong with the dog's tail.
Okay. And was that the first you were hearing about that?
That's correct.
Tell me about your conversation.
I told him that, I wasn't real sure. I just dropped him off there Sunday. And told him let's try to see if he can get me a picture or FaceTime me and let me see what was going on with the dog's tail.
And that's the FaceTime we
Where
saw.
was Paul when he called you?
He was at the dog kennels.
And how do you know that?
I could hear the dogs barking in the original call.
Is he describing to you what he's seeing on Cash's tail?
That's correct.
And Cash was at the kennels?
He was.
Did you hear any other voices when you were on the phone with Paul about 8:40?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
I heard Miss Maggie.
And who else did you hear?
And I thought it was Mr. Ellick that I heard.
You thought it was Mr. Ellick.
That's the Snapchat video.
You
they're
talked to
talking
Paul,
about.
and what did y'all talk about? What was he gonna do?
He was gonna try to FaceTime me. He
And-
said, you know how the service is out here. He said, if I can't get the FaceTime to go through, I'll send you a video.
And why was he gonna FaceTime you? What's the difference between FaceTime and a regular call?
So I could see what was wrong with the dog.
And y'all talked about how the service is
It
out here?
absolutely hurt
That's
him
correct.
to say he
And what
heard
did you mean
Alec.
by that?
Most of the time, you got enough service to make a call.
'Cause he
I mean,
knows.
sometimes the calls will break up, but a FaceTime, couldn't really get a whole lot of service to make the FaceTime call. It's kind of lagging.
Y'all have had problems with that before?
That's correct.
Did y'all discuss what to do if the FaceTime didn't work?
He already said that.
We did.
And what was the discussion?
He was gonna send me a video of it, of the dog.
He was gonna video it and then do what with it? Text it to you?
That's correct.
Oh, yeah. His testimony will make
Is that
me
the
cry
last
at some
time you ever
point.
talked to your friend?
That was.
Did y'all try to FaceTime?
We did.
Did it work?
It came through, but it was kind of lagging. I couldn't tell what was going on.
And then never heard from him again?
That's correct.
Did you ever get that video?
I did not.
He's doing an incredible job as a witness. But you can hear.
After you never got the video, did you try to reach back out to Paul to see if you could get him to respond?
I did. I called him a few times and texted him.
Did he ever respond?
He did.
You can hear.
Did you
it
reach
in
out to
his
anyone
voice.
else trying to get Paul to respond?
I texted Miss Maggie.
Did she respond?
She did.
About what time do you think you went to bed that night?
I'm not exactly sure. It was sometime right after I probably tried to contact him.
And you never heard from Miss Maggie either?
I did.
Did you ever talk to her at all that day?
I did.
Yeah, that's incredibly hard testimony
What
to
time-
give.
About what time you think you went to bed?
I'm gonna say somewhere around 10 o'clock.
And you can hear him fighting
You were pretty sound sleep?
back the emotion.
That's correct.
Been working on the farm all day?
That's correct.
I'm so glad he didn't pick up that call and end up at that
Did
crime
some calls
scene.
come in that you didn't realize because you were asleep?
Yes, I woke up with some missed calls.
What time did you wake up the next morning?
Sometime around 5:30.
When did you find out that your friend Paul and his mother Maggie had been murdered?
That same time, 5:30.
How'd you find out?
I called one of my friends that had left me, or I had a missed call from, and he told me what had happened.
And tell me his first name, please.
Nolan.
What'd you do after that?
We got a little old boy up and got him to school without talking about it a whole lot, and then we headed back home.
And by home, you mean Colleton County?
Colleton County, that's correct.
And where'd you go from there?
I went to my house first, then I ended up going to Moselle,
About what time you think you got there?
sometime maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock.
What'd you see when you got there? Where'd you go on the property?
I went to the dog kennels.
And who'd you see there? Did you talk to anyone there?
I did, and I seen John Marvin, but I didn't speak to him.
Did you talk to anybody at the scene when you first went there?
The only person I seen was John Marvin.
What'd you do after that?
My cousin let the dog out the kennel.
That being cash?
That's correct.
Did you take cash with you?
I did.
And where'd you all go from there?
To the convenience store
So he went and took his
down the road
dog.
from the house.
And who'd you meet there?
Wait, who are your
Met a
cousins?
game warden.
And what'd you do after that? Did you have a conversation?
I did. I had a conversation with him, and he said that law enforcement was going to be wanting to speak with me. And I told him, I said, well, if you got a contact, let's get him up here and let's talk.
So the
So
game
did you
warden,
wait for law enforcement to arrive?
I did.
Do you remember who you talked to?
I did.
And who'd you talk to?
Jeff Croft and Katie McAllister.
this is Croft who rerouted to talk to
did they do an
him
interview of
because
you?
he
They
was at the
did.
gas store
They asked you
station.
about your
Or the,
communications with Paul the
that
night
makes
before.
more sense.
They did.
And did they ask you to see your cell phone?
They did.
Did they take screenshots of your cell phone?
That's correct.
We still,
Were you
I still don't know
showing
who his
them
cousin is.
Your communications the night before with Paul and Maggie and others the night before.
Yes, sir.
Were you holding up the phone and they were taking screenshots?
Yes, sir.
And that's when we heard from Agent Croft that he was on the way to Moselle and then rerouted to do an interview with this witness.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification.
This has got to be so hard for this witness, but you
165,
can hear his voice
166,
crack
167,
when he's talking about it.
168.
Wasn't it still a crime scene? Everybody was up at
169,
Moselle.
170.
Just he walked up and took his dog.
171,
I don't know.
And 172. And just flip those real quick and see if you recognize those images.
Seems like everybody was just cool with it. So, these are the images of the phone, but you can hear the voice cracks. And when we talk about other witnesses who have shown emotion on the stand in other trials, and sometimes they would look physically emotional or try to wipe their face, you wouldn't hear the voice crack. The voice crack and him trying to look up and hold it in is just so purely authentic for him trying to talk through something that's awful. It's just
You recognize those?
I do.
giving really
And where
hard
are those?
testimony in
It's
a
all
very
activity
direct
on my
way,
phone. Missed calls, text.
and trying to talk through it. I'm going to be real curious to see how he responds to the
believe
defense
these are in
attorney.
evidence, but just to be clear, 165, 166, 167,
And I wanna know if he's
168,
looking at Alec.
169, 170, 171,
oh, no, the prosecutor's
172.
standing over there.
We would make sure those are in evidence. Move those in evidence, please, without objection.
Those are already in evidence because we've already seen them.
All right. May I have the Elmo, please?
I can't tell if he's
Mr.
looking at
Gibson, I'm
Alec
going to put
because
these up on the screen. You got a
Creighton is
screen up
standing over there
there.
too,
And so take a look at that, okay?
so I can't tell.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
they
right,
need a way better
165.
witness
Can y'all turn the screen around for
stand.
me,
It's
please?
awful. They got people up on this little stool, all exposed, asking them to do math. I hate it. It looks so
That's
uncomfortable.
a screenshot that Jeff Croft took of your phone that on June 8th, 2021, the next day.
That's correct.
All right, and that reflects a call from who?
Paul.
And which Paul is that?
Paul Murdaugh.
All right, and what time is that call?
8:40 p.m.
I think they'll show it
And how long
last.
does it last?
4 minutes.
I
Is
think
that
it's
the call you just described to this jury?
It is.
I think it's
Call y'all
appropriate
were
to show it
talking about
last.
Cash the dog and trying to figure out the tail?
It is.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 166. Now, again, you told this jury that when y'all got off the call, he was going to try to FaceTime you, and if not, send a video.
That's correct.
All right, I'll show you 166. Is that another screenshot of it?
It is.
And that's the FaceTime call, is that right?
That's correct.
8:44 p.m.?
That's correct.
They're going to
11
use
seconds.
this witness to establish whose
That's correct.
voices are on the video. He's already said whose voices were on the call.
Yeah, it came through, but it was
His
lagging.
voice cracked when he said
Couldn't
Alec was there.
communicate through it.
So y'all stopped,
That's correct.
and you were expecting what after that?
A video.
So they will show him the snap. I imagine if I was the prosecutor, I would save it to my last line of questioning.
I'm
I
going to
would
show you
ask
what's
him
been marked
everything
as
else
states
before.
167.
Because it's
Are these
emotional
texts
and
that
it's
were on your
hard.
phone?
They are.
Powerful.
And who are those texts between? Who are you trying to text right there, down those last two bubbles?
I was sending those texts to Paul.
All right. It's got a little glare on it. Well, what time is that text right there?
8:49 p.m.
And that's on June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
And what are you telling Paul right there? Can you read that to the jury and then explain what you were trying to say to Paul, please?
See if you can get a good picture of it. Mary Ann wants to send it to a girl we know that's a vet.
Marianne's the
Tell him
girlfriend.
to sit and stay, and he should move around too much.
We now know that.
Who were you talking about when you said tell him to sit and stay?
Cash, the dog.
Did you send another text right here?
I did.
What time is that? Can you read it?
9:58 p.m.
What do you say?
Yo,
And when you say yo to Paul, what are you trying to get him to do?
Why
just
aren't
trying
you
to get him
responding?
to call me back or text me back.
Because you hadn't gotten that video.
That's correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 168. States. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
That is.
These are missed calls from June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
Or these are outgoing calls?
They are.
Who are you trying to call?
Paul Murdaugh.
Tell me the times you tried to call him. Start from the bottom, please.
9:10 p.m., 9:29 p.m., 9:42 p.m., 9:57 p.m.
Did he ever respond?
No, sir.
I'll show you what's been marked as states 169. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
Who are you trying to call right there?
Paul,
What's that last call?
10:08 p.m.
Did he answer that call?
He did not.
Show you what's been marked as states 170. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
And who are you trying to text right here?
Miss Maggie.
Everybody can see these
What time did you
screenshots,
try
and these
to
have already
text?
been admitted into evidence. We've seen them. We went over some of them this morning.
9:34 p.m.
And
We'll
when
go
did
over
you
some of
text
them
her?
again.
Tell Paul to call me.
Tell Paul to call me.
Yes, sir.
Did she ever respond?
She did not.
He can't ask why did you send him that, but I think it's obvious. Then the thing speaks for itself. Obviously, he wasn't
You
responding.
said you woke up the next morning on June 8th, 2021, and you saw you had some missed calls. Is that right?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as states 171.
Probably an
Is this
understatement.
also a screenshot or a picture that Special Agent Croft took of your phone?
It is.
All right. And who are those missed calls from?
Mr. Hillick,
And what time did they come in?
10:21 p.m. and 10:24 p.m.
And that would have been on June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
Were you asleep at that time?
I was.
Unaware they were coming in?
That's correct.
172. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
All right. And those other missed calls that came in?
10:25 p.m. and 10:30 p.m.
When you spoke to Special Agent Croft on June 8th, 2021, did you tell him and Special Agent McAllister who you thought you heard on that phone call at 8:40?
I did.
This is
And who did you say
earlier
you
than the
heard?
I
Snapchat.
thought it was Mr. Ellick, but I wasn't exactly sure.
Did you give him a percentage?
I did.
What'd you say?
99%.
That you heard Mr. Alec on that phone call at 8:40?
That's correct.
As
Which puts
time went on
Alec-
after the
Up at the
Murders,
kennels.
did you go to Moselle where all the family and friends
For
were
4
gathering?
minutes,
I
5
did.
minutes.
Were you there a fair amount?
Probably the whole part of later that week.
While you were there at the house where the family and friends had gathered, did anyone ever ask you about your last contact with Paul?
There was
And who asked you?
Grandma.
And that being Miss Brandstetter,
That's correct.
Maggie's mother?
That's correct.
And what did you say?
Told her, yeah, that I talked to Paul about the dog, and told her that I heard Miss Maggie in the background, and I heard a male voice that I thought was Mr. Elliott.
Was he in the room then?
Yes,
Did he stand up and say, "No, I wasn't there"?
he did.
Maggie's mother asked,
Did you ever have any conversation
that was a good
with
pause for Creighton.
Alec Murdaugh about
Maggie's mother
what happened
asked.
that night?
No, sir.
Did he ever ask you about whether or not you heard him on that phone that night?
Maggie's
No, sir.
family has not
Did
been
he
in
ever
court.
tell you what he did that night?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask him
Ever.
what he did that night?
No, sir.
Not a subject you wanted to talk about, was it?
That's correct.
Over time, as the months passed following the murder of Paul and Maggie,
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
did you were ultimately interviewed by law enforcement and other part of the process and that sort of thing, is that correct?
That's correct.
Who else tried to talk
And
to
as
you?
time went on and you were asked about who you heard on the phone that night, that call at 8:40, you said, "Hey, I thought it was Alec, but I can't be sure."
That's correct.
Told law enforcement the night of, 99% sure, correct?
Say that question again, please.
Told law
Oh,
enforcement
he's
the next
walked it
day,
back.
June 8th, that you were 99% sure, is that correct?
That's correct.
As time went on, you said, "I thought it was Alec, but I can't be sure."
That's correct.
Why did you walk it back? Why did you walk
In
it back?
November of 2022, did law enforcement ask you to come in and look at a video?
They did.
Snapchat.
And did you watch that video?
I did.
And what was on that video?
It was the video. Paul was supposed to take a cash. Cash was on the video.
And did you recognize the voices on there?
I did.
Did you recognize the voices of your second family?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Mr. Elliott.
That's a good
And
question.
how sure are you now?
Positive.
100%?
That's correct.
It's a good question, Creighton. It's a good way to question your second family.
1 second for the computer to boot up.
Y'all, we're gonna see it. I've been seeing some of the looks. He was backing away from Alec being there until he saw that video. Creighton has asked some powerful questions. This is gonna be the end of this questioning. They've got to leave the Snapchat to last. It's going to be emotional. But this is a family he spent a ton of time with. He can identify those voices. And you're starting to see the looks that seem like he is giving them to Alec Murdaugh. Those in the courtroom will be able to tell better than us on stream. But these are good questions from Creighton. And even though it's emotional testimony, it disproves Alec's timeline powerfully. But the tech issues kind of take away the moment. It gives us all a second to take a breath. But this witness is very believable
I'll stand for a moment.
and has no reason to not be. He was where he was. He saw what he saw. He texted what he texted. And he went through something horrible. But Maggie Murdaugh's mom, Paul's grandma, asking him who he heard on that call is very interesting information to me. We've never seen Maggie's family in court. And they are going to play this Snapchat video. He was sitting in a room with Alec Murdaugh talking to the family in the days after his best friend was killed. That he heard Mr. Alec on the phone, and he backed away from that. I was worried the prosecution was going to say, has anybody else contacted you? Because I wouldn't be surprised by that either. He backed away from the certainty of it until he saw the video that was taken of the tail of his dog Cash. And he says he is 100%
Before we play the
sure.
video, I want to ask a couple more questions.
This is the Snapchat video. He's going to identify
When
the
you-
voices on those video.
Received that phone call from Paul at the kennels
Someone
at
has to.
8:40 p.m. on the night of June 7th, 2021. Did Paul sound normal to you?
He did.
Did he sound stressed to you?
He did not.
He does. He
Did he
seems
sound
like a
like
good
someone
kid.
was there that he didn't know?
No, sir.
Did he sound worried?
He did.
Did you hear Maggie's voice?
I did.
Did she sound stressed?
She did.
Did she sound worried?
No,
Did she sound normal?
she did.
Did she sound like there was somebody there she didn't know?
No, sir.
Or that she was in danger?
Creighton,
No, sir.
Did you hear Alex's voice?
What I thought was his voice at the time, yeah.
he's still careful with that, which is very interesting to me. There's no getting around that video.
When Maggie or Paul would go down to the kennels, how would they usually get there?
They would drive, sometimes Miss Maggie would walk or ride a bike. If they had an ATV or a golf cart in the yard, sometimes they would drive that.
Paul more likely to be one to ride or one to drive down there?
Most of the time, he would drive.
Was it usual for the family to go down there sometimes and let the dogs out?
It was.
Did you ask them?
Let them
who?
run around?
That's correct.
Did
Let
Miss
the-
Maggie like to do that?
I'm sorry.
She did.
I would just like to alleviate some of the very unpleasant feelings I'm feeling. I'm very sad for this kiddo.
To
And
your
I just
knowledge, for
want
guns
somebody
to
to
be left
ask
down at
who
the
let the
kennels.
dogs out, just because I need
Sometimes
a
there
minute.
was, yeah.
The defense's cross is going to be very gentle. It should be very gentle. The defense's cross should not be aggressive. The video is what it is.
play that video for
the
you,
voices
okay?
are what they are. The cross is going to be about what a loving family they were. That's what it should be about. Thank you all for just going with me on the who let the dogs out. I appreciate. I just needed we all just need a minute. I hope someone just gives Rogan a big old hug.
Get it. Get that.
They're playing the Snapchat video.
Quick, Cash. Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth. Hey, Bubba. It's a kitty. This is a chicken. Come here, Cash. Come here, Bob. Cash. Quick.
He's not looking at the video. He didn't want to look at the
You
video.
watched back in November 2022?
It is.
Where's that video taken?
At the kennels.
You recognize your dog?
I do.
You recognize Paul's voice?
Yes, sir.
You recognize Maggie's voice?
Yes, sir.
All leading.
You recognize Alex's voice?
Yes, sir.
100%?
Yes, sir.
Can you point out Alec Murdaugh, the person whose
All
voice you
leading.
recognize in this video in this courtroom, please?
Sitting right there in a great jacket.
Please let the record reflect he's identified the defendant. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Nothing further.
Moving on to cross-examination. I hear either come here, Paul, or get him, Paul. I don't know if they're trying to talk about the dog. I'm assuming they're talking about the dog with the chicken.
Good afternoon, Rogan.
How you doing?
We've met many times, haven't we?
Yes, sir.
Because you were representing Paul in the boat crash,
Tell the jury more about
and you spent a
Paul,
lot of
please.
time with this family.
What did y'all like to do together?
We already covered
We
that.
love
directly.
hunting, fishing, just hanging around. We love staying at the beach, going to the sandbars. He could get along with just about anybody.
He's not mentioned boating once. I'm not
Is he one of your
surprised.
best friends?
He is.
Is this a hard day for you?
Yes, sir.
And did you live one summer in the cabin there on the property?
Yes, me, Buster, and Nolan lived in the cabin, and Paul was there a lot.
And when you got a house of your own, I mean, it was just right down the road, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Down Moselle Road?
Yes, sir.
It was your grandparents' house or you moved into?
That's correct.
And, but before that, Ms. Maggie and Big Red over here, Mr. Alec, I mean, they treated you as family, didn't they?
That's correct. They did.
And
They treated you as family.
Paul was like a brother to you,
Yes, sir.
Is an interesting way to phrase it.
and Ms. Maggie was like a second mom to you,
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Alec was like a second dad.
Yes, sir, he was.
You can hear it in his voice.
And could you tell the jury what you observed Alec's relationship was, starting with you? What was his relationship with you?
And we knew
We had
this
a
was
good
gonna come up.
relationship. I mean, he treated me like one of his own. We had fun. He gave me permission to hunt the property.
Did you have permission to come and go and down at the shop?
I did.
Did you have permission to use any of the equipment?
Yes, sir.
And did you help out on the farm for game management and stuff?
I did.
Okay. And
It felt a little like that.
can
to
you tell
me.
the jury a little bit about Mr. Alec's relationship with his son Paul?
Oh, he said
Very
was.
good relationship.
Were
Very
they
good.
Were they close?
They were. Nothing happened without Paul telling Mr. Ellick about it.
Interesting.
And
That's
did,
not what Alex said.
Jury's heard some Alec interviewed on the tape, various about how the Moselle property was Paul's passion.
That's
was.
interesting.
You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think it was his passion? What was he so passionate about out there?
He just loved hunting and using the equipment to manage for wild game, fishing.
Right.
He loved all of that.
Was Paul a good friend?
Yes, sir.
Was he a loyal friend?
He was.
Was he a loyal son?
Yes, sir.
Interesting questions.
Tell me about Miss Maggie.
She was like a second mother to me. Always took care of me.
You can hear
Treated
it.
me like one of hers.
You can hear it when he talks about Maggie.
Did
Each time he's talked
You
about
spend
Maggie, his
time
voice
with
is broken.
down at Edisto,
I did.
and you and Paul and Miss Maggie sometimes just the three of you down there?
It was.
Okay. What did Miss Maggie like to do?
She liked the beach.
When they were down at Edisto, were you the only friend welcome at the Edisto house, or what was it like?
There was many friends that were welcome to the house.
Like adult friends, or was
Most,
Miss Maggie, Miss Alex home? Was it open to
Can you
all of
define
Paul and
adult,
Buster's
Jim?
friends?
it was open to all of Paul and Buster's friends.
And was that the case at Edisto?
That's correct.
Was that the case at Moselle?
It was.
Did it appear to you that Mr. Alec enjoyed being around his family?
Yes, sir. He did.
And did you enjoy being around Mr. Alec and Miss Maggie?
Yes, sir.
Jim, you know what you're going to ask next?
And I apologize, I'm gonna get the date wrong, but
This
you
is
remember
what
in
I would
early
ex-
2019 that Paul was in a boating accident?
Yes, sir.
This is going to be interesting. This is what I would expect
And a
to establish the good
beautiful young
relationship.
woman died in that accident, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Her name was Mallory Beach.
That's correct.
Okay.
And Paul was eventually charged. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did
You were the
Paul
attorney on that
receive
case,
any threats
Jim.
or harassments that you knew about as a result of that boating accident?
None that I thought was real serious. I mean, he mentioned it, that, you know, he'd get people comment about it, but nothing that I thought was real serious.
Nothing real serious.
Did he, would people just mouth off to him when he went out bars or just with his friends?
Yes, sir. He had mentioned that.
But was it anything that you thought was serious in nature?
No, and a lot of times I wasn't there.
The questioning about Mallory
When
Beach
that
is
happened.
deeply uncomfortable.
I didn't think it was that serious.
By Paul's defense
Let
attorney.
me back up. I skipped over something. You played sports when you were a kid growing up?
Yes, sir.
I think your dad was a coach, was he?
Yes, sir.
And was Mr. Alec a coach to Paul and Buster?
He was.
Yep, he didn't
And,
think the threats were serious.
Did Mr. Alec, when he wasn't coaching, would he and Ms. Maggie come to all the sporting events for the kids?
They were always there.
Can you think of them ever missing a sporting event for Buster or Paul?
Not that I can remember.
And they come to your sporting events?
Yes.
Today's podcast episode talks about the conflict with the Mallory Beach boat crash, and with regard to the Idaho conflict.
Now, and Paul had an apartment in 2021. He was starting to go back to school at Carolina. Do you remember that? He was in college.
Yes, sir.
School year.
That's correct.
And in June, he had moved back he'd moved back home. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Was he living at Moselle for the most part?
I think he was staying in Moselle some, but kind of all over the place.
Jeffrey, you
And
make
sometimes he stayed with his Uncle John Marvin down
absolutely
in
the point.
Bluffton?
Yes, sir.
His
he was
best
working
friend
with
would
an
have a
Uncle John
better
Marvin.
perception about those
correct.
threats.
Okay.
His best friend would have a much better perception about those threats than his
Now,
parents.
when he was on the farm, when he was at Moselle, now this gets a little confusing for me. Frankly, let me just ask you.
Hey, Jim, just ask a
Can you
question,
tell
man.
the jury about all the farm trucks there at Moselle?
Yeah, there was a lot of different vehicles that could be used anywhere from ATVs to tractors.
Well, let's just talk about the trucks. So
Okay.
what was Paul's primary truck?
Around the farm most of the time, F-250.
The Ford F-250 that
All
broke
right,
down.
but what was his primary mode of transportation? Was it a truck?
It was F-150.
Jim,
And
he
was
just
it white?
It was.
Jim, he
Okay,
just
and
said it
then-
was the F-250.
And then, and did he drive that around the farm some?
Sometimes, yes.
And then there was a big F-250,
That's correct.
and
thought
that was
that's-
also white, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Did that have a name, the big F-250 farm truck?
Yeah, White Boy. That was the older F-250.
Good
And then there was another one called Dolly?
That's correct. That was a newer F-250.
That was a newer F-250. And then there was there a black truck?
There was.
And that was a F-150?
It was.
And was that Buster's old truck?
It was.
So there were,
How many trucks are there?
and then, so Buster had another vehicle, and his old F-150 stayed at Moselle, correct?
That's correct.
And then Paul had his white 150 pickup, and where, he was not at Moselle, there were still 3 other trucks at Moselle, right?
That's correct.
Dolly, White Boy, and then Buster's old black pickup.
There,
That's correct.
that was
And when
3.
Paul was there, he would drive any one of those trucks, wouldn't he,
Yes, sir.
on the farm? And no matter which one he was driving, he
Where's
would
the 4th?
most often have some sort of firearm in the truck, right?
That's correct. Most of the time on the farm, he had a
We're
firearm
missing a
in the
truck.
vehicle.
And those trucks, they would either stay down at the shed, the workshop, or at the house. I mean, there's no set place for them, correct?
It's a lot of trucks.
That's correct.
And they didn't lock the trucks up, did they?
Not normally.
Jim, it's 1,700 acres.
And then Paul would leave guns in the trucks, wouldn't he?
That's correct.
This cross-examining
Paul would
about
leave
Paul,
guns
who is your
everywhere.
client, just
just about, wouldn't he?
Makes me so
Yeah, he
uncomfortable.
could leave, he left a lot of stuff, different places.
Yeah. Did they ever leave any guns at your house?
I'm sure he has over the years.
Okay. And then he would leave guns in the workshop, right?
I have seen guns in the workshop, yes.
And then
This makes me so uncomfortable.
did they
I
keep
don't-
the workshop locked?
I don't
It
like
just
it.
depends, not a whole lot, but I have remembered it's being locked, yes.
Was it more often not locked than locked?
Probably more recent, yeah, it wasn't locked.
Did they, if someone were bent on mischief, would it be a hard thing to go up on that property and steal stuff?
Probably not around the sheds. It wouldn't be too hard.
Who would
If
steal from
someone were
this
bent
family
on
that
mischief,
everyone's
would be a hard
afraid
thing to
of?
go open up and rifle through or look through White Boy or Dolly or Buster's old black pickup truck?
That is possible, yes.
Who is going to steal from this family? Are you
And there were
kidding
no
me?
security cameras down at the old airplane hangar, the workshop, the kennels, and the pole barn and skinny shed, were there?
This is the
Not that I
family
was
that the
ever
police
aware
were
of.
apologizing to.
And there were no, in the cabin
Oh,
where you
please.
guys stayed that summer, there
No
was no
one's going
security
onto their
cameras there either.
property to get up
right?
to anything
Not
unless
that
they're
I
going to
knew
get
of.
shot. There's no
And with that
way.
cabin, did it stay locked?
Sometimes it was locked, sometimes it wasn't.
Paul left guns there too, didn't he?
I have seen guns in that cabin before, yes.
Shannon over on Facebook said, if such serious threats, why not have any more cameras? Because I don't think the threats against Paul were serious. And I think everyone knew that.
I wanna,
Yeah, no one's going out to Moselle on 17
turned this thing
acres,
upside down,
1,700 acres to steal from the Murdaughs.
you talked about handsome. Who's handsome?
Mr. Randolph Murdaugh.
And Ms.
The
Libby
powerful one.
is who?
Yeah.
Who's Ms. Libby?
M.
M. And that's Paul and Buster's grandparents, right?
That's correct.
And you know where they live?
In Alameda.
Alameda. And just generally, where's Alameda?
It's on the outside of Barnville.
Okay, is it like a crossroads?
And it's a veer off. Go toward Ridgeland. If you veer off, if you stay on that road, you go to Embassy.
Right. If you're coming out of Hampton toward Varnville, then where the veer off is, that's called Alameda.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's real uncomfortable
Now-
when he's laying into Paul.
To get to Alameda,
It's not uncommon
the
in
most
criminal trials at
direct
all.
route,
You've got to cross-examine about
Do
the
this
behavior
right
of the
now.
victim. It's not comfortable to
So,
watch. It's not
can you see
comfortable
from
for
back
this
there?
witness at all.
I can.
But it is an
and so
adversarial
this is the main
system.
house right here, correct?
That's correct.
It's real
And
uncomfortable.
you can get down to Moselle Road by going one or two ways, right? You can either take a left and go down by the shop and the kennels, or you can go straight out the main driveway, is that right?
Yes, you can
At
go
least
out
we
both
finally have
ways.
a map.
But when you hit Moselle Road, would you turn right or left if you're going the most direct route to Alameda?
Turn right.
And be going down this way?
That's correct.
Why are you yelling? They're talking about which way you would exit the property, what the most direct way is, which is probably not the way Maggie's phone is found, by the way.
You were asking a little bit about Paul's cell phone usage. He was on it a lot.
He was on it a lot, yes, sir.
Yeah. And did it battery get down low pretty regularly?
Yes, he would let his phone die sometime, or he would lose it.
Well, and when it would get down low, did he have a habit of not using it to try to keep it from going all the way out?
Yes, I have seen that happen before.
And have you done that yourself?
Yes, sir.
And phone coverage, cell phone coverage on that property is
He's trying to
somewhat,
shift the
when I say
timeline.
that property, I'm talking about Moselle, somewhat spotty, isn't it?
It is.
And is there better coverage up at the house than down at the kennels?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's
And-
kind of
and-
hit and miss.
And you can be down at the kennels, and you can be, walk 10 yards one way, you'd have some coverage, 10 yards the other way, you wouldn't have coverage, is that right?
That's correct.
He had all the phones, texted
Now-
that night, called that night. FaceTime was tough, and that
Back up
makes
here.
sense.
You know, we don't have any measurements on what this distance is from the kennels to the house, but
How long would it take you to walk
if you're
them?
just driving in a buggy or a car or what have you, I mean, tell the jury roughly how long it would take in a vehicle to go from the kennels to the house.
It all depends how fast you're driving, but it don't take long to get from the sheds to the house.
That's
And you can
fair.
do it under 2 minutes.
Definitely under 2 minutes.
Going fast enough, you can do it in a minute or less, I suspect. Is that right?
Yes, if you're going fast enough, you would be able to make it from the sheds to the house in under a minute.
Okay.
That's such an honest answer. It depends on how fast we're going. That's so fair.
You were
Such a
Asked
fair
about-
answer.
turkey season.
He didn't ask about walking.
When-
I would be interested to
and
hear
when it
about
started
if
and when
you were
it ended, you
walking.
remember? And you can tell me, I don't know, when's turkey season start? then?
Yes, most time mid-March to early May.
How about duck season? When's that start?
The first season starts around Thanksgiving, I think the weekend before Thanksgiving,
And when's the second season start?
sometime in December,
And when's it end?
end of January.
Do you go duck hunting with Paul?
Yes, sir, I have.
And they had a duck pond on the property?
That's correct.
And did they keep it full all year, or did they drain it and plant it for the season?
Yeah, they would drain it after duck season and be ready to plant in the springtime.
Wait, what do you
And
plant
you
in the
help with
pond?
that?
I did.
And would Mr. Alec
I really don't know. I'm just
be
actually
involved help
curious.
doing that? But
He would.
and that was part of Paul's passion, doing things like that.
That's correct.
Wait, what do you plant in the pond?
Now,
Jim, we're just curious. We don't know.
waterfowl
He's going to start talking about
Shells.
the different
load are different than
the different types
turkey
of
load, right?
That's
the
correct.
different types of
What's the difference?
Steel shot
shot.
And steel shot for what?
for ducks, waterfowl.
And why? Is it just preferred or is it required?
That's required.
Because you don't want lead in the water?
That's correct.
Okay. But for hunting purposes, if you just had your choice, would you rather hunt with lead or steel?
Lead shot.
Because it has greater knockdown power?
It does.
Okay. Is that why you would rather, or just price too? I
Hey,
suspect?
Jim.
What's that again?
Why would you prefer lead over steel?
It has better knockdown.
Hey,
It's
Jim.
better.
What happened to your old "I'm just a city boy" thing from 2 days ago? Where'd that go? Today you're an expert in duck hunting. What happened to "I'm just a city boy"? I don't understand.
Now, you
Jim?
were asked
Real change. It's real change.
questions about 300 blackouts.
You know a
And
whole
at
lot
one-
about the difference between
one
lead and
time-
steel and ducks and turkeys.
Paul had his own, and Buster had his own. They had 300 blackouts. You remember that?
I did.
And then you heard that Paul had one stolen out of his truck at a party.
That's correct.
And do you remember roughly when that was?
I'm not exactly sure.
Years ago?
Yeah, it's been a good many years
That's what
ago.
he said on direct.
And whenever, in recent memory, have you ever seen Paul with a 300 blackout other than the black one with the thermal scope?
Not to my knowledge.
So whenever you were with Paul and he had a 300 blackout, it was the black one with the thermal scope.
That's correct.
I believe the black one with the
Did you ever
thermoscope
see a 300 blackout around the house
is the one
that was
in
black
evidence.
without a thermal scope?
Not to my knowledge, I hadn't.
And I know the jury's heard it. What's a thermal scope?
picks up the heat from the animal. You can see it at nighttime because of the heat.
Just for night hunting?
That's correct.
And that's the best time to hunt hogs?
It is.
But during the daytime, they stay in the swamp?
That's correct.
At night, they come out?
Yes, sir.
And y'all had cameras out there to see when they were coming out?
Sometimes we did.
Okay.
I want to go back and look at because I believe the 300 blackout they have in evidence has the scope. But I don't remember exactly. I need to go look.
Now,
I need to look at which one they took back
you
from.
listened to this videotape and heard
Because one's missing and one's not.
that was your dog, Cash,
It was.
Chocolate Lab,
Yes, sir.
and you heard Ms. Maggie,
Yes, sir.
and you heard Paul, obviously.
That's correct.
And Ms. Maggie was saying he got I forgot him,
A guinea.
guinea. And then you heard a voice say, no, it's a chicken. Do you remember whose voice that was?
It was Mr. Alex that said it the first time, and then Paul also said it was a chicken.
Okay. And then someone says, Bubba, let go of that chicken or something like that?
Yeah, just hollered for Bubba.
And
Who?
whose voice did you recognize hollering for Bubba?
Mr. Alex,
Okay. And who's Bubba?
their dog.
Did they have, and was
That's helpful.
Bubba a yellow lab?
He was.
Did
Jim's having a
Bubba
hard
have his
time
own kennel?
asking the questions
He
because he
did.
knows all the answers.
Which one
Because
was it?
he was
Most of the time, he was in the first one, right beside the feed room.
because Jim knows his family well, so he's having a. It sounds like he's
Now-
having a hard time asking questions.
You had talked to
As opposed to
Paul.
testifying.
I think the
And
record showed
Bubba's
you
the
had
dog.
a
He's a yellow
4-minute
dog.
telephone conversation before that video was taken, which you didn't receive until law enforcement showed you. But you remember, you talked to Paul for about 4 minutes, right?
That's correct.
And I believe when you were interviewed, you said it sounded like Mr. Alec had pulled up or something to that effect, driven up. Do you remember that?
No, I don't ever remember hearing a vehicle.
Okay,
I just remember hearing a third voice.
okay. And the next day, excuse me, was it the 8th, the next day you went over and met with, and went into the house at Moselle and you saw Maggie's parents?
That's correct.
And that's when Grandma, Miss Brandstetter, asked you
Maggie's mother.
if you heard Maggie's voice?
Yes.
Okay. And you told her you did?
Told her I talked to Paul and heard Miss Maggie.
And you told him in front of everybody that you had thought you'd heard Alec's voice too, right?
That's correct.
And he didn't push back whatsoever?
No, sir.
What was Alec's demeanor when you first saw him after the murders and days after? What?
He was just real distraught, sad. Just tore up about it.
Did he cry a lot?
Yes, sir.
Did he hug you?
He did.
Did he cry?
Yes, sir.
Did you cry?
Yes, sir.
Don't try to make this young man cry, Jim.
Did he cry the day after and the day after? I mean,
That was really sad.
right.
Of course he was. He is holding it together, man. Let him hold it together. I think Alex absolutely knew about the Snapchat video, and part of the reason this makes me so uncomfortable is that Jim is also a family friend. They all know each other, and it's just, and Jim was one of Paul's defense attorneys on the boat crash case. And so to be cross-examining his best friend about it is such an
On this,
uncomfortable conflict for me.
Video, you've been around Alec, Maggie, and Paul most all your life. Was there did you notice any signs of distress or anxiety or anything out of the ordinary?
I did not.
And you've been around Maggie and Alec and their whole family a lot?
Almost all of my life, yes, sir.
And would you see Alec openly show his display of affection and love to Maggie?
Yes, sir.
And from your observation, they have a close, good relationship?
That's correct.
And they were loving to each other and to Paul and Buster and their friends, correct?
That's correct.
And can you think of any circumstance that you can envision, knowing them as you do, where Alec would brutally murder Paul and Maggie?
Not that I can think of.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Anything further?
Could you imagine Alex stealing from his housekeeper's children? Could you imagine? I think this opens the door to ask.
You were asked some questions about the sheds
I think it
being
opens the door
unlocked.
to ask about other things he
Paul
doesn't
ever
know.
complained to you? People were up there stealing all kinds of stuff all the time?
I think the
I
defense
was
just
never
opened the
aware
door.
of people stealing anything.
I think he opened the door.
When you talked to Paul and heard Maggie and Alec at 8:40, was there any problem with that voice call, or did it come through just fine? The reception was good.
The call came through, yes.
And the last conversation you had with Paul was he was going to do what if the FaceTime didn't work?
Hey,
Send me a
Creighton,
video.
I think you need to approach.
That's correct.
I think you need to ask the court if you can ask about the Mallory, not the Mallory Beach case, about Gloria Satterfield, and I think you need to ask the
heard
court if
that
you can
video
ask
and you
about
hear
the
three
suicide
voices,
for
is that
hire.
correct?
Well, I think you need to ask,
Maggie, Paul, and Mr. Alec?
In the video,
Or-
yes, sir.
because he might not be able to imagine Alec murdering his kids, but did he imagine Alec
When you're,
hiring someone to kill him on the side of the road? Could we,
Standing.
sir, door open.
If you're at the house or inside the house on the second floor or something like that.
Door open.
Can you see the roofs of the sheds and down there?
They need to go to.
The last time I had been out there, yes, you would be
You
able to
couldn't
see
imagine
the
this.
top of the structure.
But you also
If
couldn't
you're
imagine
standing
this.
out
and you
here-
couldn't imagine this.
In front of them sheds, could you see the top of the house the other way?
Same thing, yeah. Last time I was there, you would be able to see the top of the structure. There was trees growing between the houses.
And that was a long time ago, right?
That's correct.
I think the defense opened the door for that with asking him. I don't think they're going to go there, but I think the defense opened the door for it.
Down there at the sheds, did they have like outdoor lighting down there?
Yes, sir, they did.
And if all that was on, could you see all that lighting from the house?
Yes, you would be able to see that there were lights on. from the
That's a
house.
good question.
If those lights were on, it'd be pretty well lit up, is that right?
If all of them were, yes.
That's the first time we've heard that. Because when police showed up, it was dark.
You were asked about
So
the
who
boat
turned off
wreck.
the lights at the kennel?
Were you aware that Paul had been charged in that boat wreck?
I was.
Were you aware that Alec Murdaugh had been sued in that boat wreck?
I was.
What was your perception of
Oh,
Alec's wealth? Did you believe he was a fairly wealthy man?
Yes, sir.
would you say he was rich AF? He's not going to ask that.
How long have you known Alec Murdaugh?
Pretty much all my life.
As you sit here today, did you really know him?
You opened the door.
Yes, I know Mr. Elliott.
But as you sit here today, do you really know him?
Yes, I know Mr. Elliott.
Thank
You need to approach, and you need to get into some of the other motive evidence.
Anything further?
Okay.
You may step down.
I'm surprised he didn't. I'm surprised he didn't. But this witness stood his ground. And it looks like Alec is nodding at him as he leaves the witness stand. What did he say to
Take
him?
about a 10-minute recess.
I need a recess. He said something to him. Did he say thank you? Yeah. He should have approached the judge and said, we need to ask about some of these other things. I don't know why Creighton didn't. We'll see how that goes later. He should have. I thought the defense opened the door for it because I think he said thank you too. Once the defense asked, could you think of anything that would lead to Alec doing this to his wife and kid, I think it's fair to ask about the things Alec has already admitted to, the things we know for a fact. which include the suicide for hire and which include the theft from Gloria Satterfield. Those things Alec has admitted to, those things are interesting. I think he should have asked about them. And he said, as you sit here, do you really know him? And he could have gone to the court and said, we need to be allowed to ask about these things. I think that would be fair. But he didn't. So there we are. That is, we'll see. Look, I trust that the prosecution knows their case well better than I know their case. Now I need to go back and look, and I made a note to myself to see which 300 blackout they have in custody, the one with the scope or without the scope. I didn't perceive the difference between the two weapons until we had the guy talking about how expensive the one with the scope was and the other one being the replacement. I didn't pay attention when we entered in like all of it. So let's see. Live day 4, the review of the blackout, it does have an optic on it from what I can tell. So it might be, there's a picture of the, hold on, there's a picture of somebody holding it up in court. Hold on. The law enforcement officer, there's a photo of the officer holding it up in court that I saw the other day. Okay, here we go. Wait, where'd the photo go? I just grabbed it. Why would you? Ugh. And that looks to me. So this is Croft with the gun on the stand. So this is Croft with the gun on the witness stand. This is the 300 blackout they recovered. This is the 300 blackout with the scope. So the replacement gun is the one that's missing. So the replacement one is the one that's missing because this looks to me like it has a scope there up on top of it. This is the more expensive one. So that scope down there by his hand. So I think that the gun that is missing that they suspect to be the murder weapon is the one that was the replacement without a scope. So we have 3 blackout AR rifles. The tan one and the black and tan that were given as Christmas presents. The tan one, Rogan said, Paul said, got stolen out of his truck at a party. Then Alec bought the replacement without all the bells and whistles, the one without the thermal scopes and everything else, the one that cost $850 instead of thousands. That is the one that's no longer on the property. So let us continue on while we are on break. We're going to answer some questions, but we're going to first go look at the video, the Snapchat video that was just testified to, because the video has been released by the court and it is up on, well, literally everyone's Twitter. So we're just going to go grab that and take a look at that real quick. That was a hard testimony. All right, hold on. We're going to go look at this Snapchat and see what we see. So this is the goodest boy, and he is, back with his owner. He was staying there, and it makes sense why he was staying there. So this is Cash, the chocolate lab. Makes sense why he was staying at the property. So let's keep going. All right. The sounds all make more sense when you hear them. I'm going to actually gain this up just a little bit. They all make sense more sense when you hear them with video on. So let's just make sure this is turned up. Hopefully it's not too loud, but this is...
Get back.
This is him going into the pen where Cash is to try to get a video of the tail because he thought something was up with Cash's tail.
Quit, Cash. Quit.
No diagnosing the puppers. Now I hear water. Do y'all hear the water? Now I hear the water.
Cash.
It looks wet in there.
He's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, Bubba.
So to me, it sounds like Maggie says he's got a bird in his mouth, and Alex says Bubba, because Bubba, we now know, is the dog's name. So with more context, this all makes more sense. Yes, you can. He is the goodest boy. Absolutely. Maggie might be spraying down the kennels. So, and the floor is wet. They might have been cleaning out the kennels.
That's a guinea.
It's a chicken.
So I hear Maggie say it's a guinea. Then I hear Paul say it's a chicken. And then further away, you can hear Alex saying it's a chicken. So I'm going to back up just a little bit.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, Bubba.
That's a guinea.
It's a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
And I can hear him in this video better saying, "Come here, Bubba. Come here, Bubba." Probably trying to get the chicken out of his mouth. And when law enforcement arrives, there is a chicken up in they got the chicken back from Bubba at some point. Dog. But I'm going to watch one more time.
Get back. Get back. Quit, Cash. Come. Quit. It's okay. Come here.
There's something there that I didn't hear. Water.
Post it. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, Bubba.
That's a guinea.
It's a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
So again, the police are told by Alec that he is not up at the kennels, that he is at the house, he has dinner, he goes to bed. We haven't seen Alec's third interview yet, but we have a problem. I hear Alex say Bubba after Maggie said he's got a bird in his mouth. I hear it too. It's like he's got a bird in his mouth. And then you can hear him go, Bubba, like, come on, dog. And then she says it's a guinea. Paul says it's a chicken. Alex says it's a chicken. And then they're talking a little more. And then you can hear Alex say, come here, Bubba. Come here, Bubba. The closer male voice is Paul. The further away sounding male voice is Alex. So Alex's voice is farther away. And so it's just a very, very, it seems like a very nondescript moment. They're out by the kennels and doing stuff. The problem is that when you talk to police after there's been a double homicide and tell them you were never there, when there's evidence that shows that you were for sure there, that's tough. Is it enough for this jury? I don't know if it is. So I think at the end he does say turn it off. I think they're talking about the water. But nobody sounds stressed. Nobody sounds upset. Nobody sounds out of sorts. Everybody's just kind of like, oh, dog. The dog has a bird in its mouth. So they were all out there together. And again, the kennels, I'm going to just pull up, let's see. The kennels are open to the outside a bit. So I'm just going to pull those up real quick so we can look at those photos because we have some better photos now. Photos keep getting added. Court TV is doing a really good job of adding the exhibits to their website. So I'm going to pull those up. Alex's voice is distinct. So let's see. I'm going to get to those photos that have been added real quick. Here's the two, the tan one that was stolen / went missing. And then here's the black one that is in police custody. The replacement one is the missing one. These are the cell phone photos that we talked about. Maggie's cell phone, the checks for the guns, which we saw. And then again, they are in this area out by the kennels. So you have the red roof from what's the hangar, where it used to be an airplane hangar. And then you've got the kennels under that tin roof to the side. And those kennels over there is where they are inside and outside of right that area, and that's right where Paul's body is found. So that's the hangar. This is another view of the kennels over here. So see where all that water is? Let's see if I can zoom it in a bit more. Where all that water is outside the kennels is where there was water that night. So and then we see the beginning at the base of the picture right here, the beginning of that grapevine that they were talking about. So I think what we're hearing is water splashing on the concrete, not necessarily splashing on the gravel, but we'll see, because there was so much water there when police arrived. It was commented on by almost everyone that arrived on scene that night. Here's a better overhead view of the kennels, of the hangar, and then of the plants of those grapevines down here at the bottom. So, why did the prosecutors act like the water is sus? I have no idea. And I have no idea. They did, didn't they? I thought they did too. I have no idea, because it sure isn't if they were out there hosing down the kennels and everybody has the Snapchat video. If you're going to show the jury a Snapchat video where you can clearly hear people hosing down the kennels, stop making the water look nefarious. It's not, unless you have something else, it's not going to play. So, with that, we're going to get to some questions, and then we'll see what happens. Let's see. Didn't the water wash away the footsteps? Not all of them. Not all of them. So, let's see. Paula asked, question, was the suicide for hire? It was after. It was when he got, I have a whole podcast, The Emily Show, on the breakdown of the timeline in this case, but Alec hired someone that's called Cousin Eddie to shoot him on the side of the road, or at least that's what he says. Cousin Eddie said, no, we were fighting over the gun because Alec was going to do it. It was a graze wound on his head. It was as the firing was happening in September when he was arrested for all of this. So it was not within the same time. It was after. So court is just on a break. We are not done for the day. We can go ahead, Miguelina, if you want to pin that. Court is on a break. We are not done for the day. Let me just pull up my timeline real quick. So no, that murder for hire went down right before he got arrested on all of this stuff, months before he was ever charged in this. The wheels came off of everything for Alec Murdaugh, who's now facing over 100 different indictments. That all came down months before he was ever indicted here. So before he was fired and before the rest of it. So let me see. Because it was September 3rd, he resigned from the law firm. The law firm put out a statement, September 3rd, 2021. The law firm put out a statement that they were shocked to find that he was stealing, though it sounds like they confronted him about some missing funds on June 7th. We'll see if that comes in on this trial. September 8th, the law license is suspended. September 10th, let's see, September 10th, there was a statement about the shooting on the side of the road. September 4th is the shooting on the side of the road. So he resigns from the law firm September 3rd. The shooting on the side of the road happened September 1st. This is all 2021. September 6th, he enters rehab. September 8th, his law license is suspended. So everything really starts to go downhill in September of 2021, but almost a year before he's charged in these homicides. So they're not relevant to this, except his demeanor, I think, in the 911 call for the roadside incident, I think is relevant.
Your Honor, one matter I'd like to address with the court, during and throughout the questioning that the defense has been doing, and including one question that was asked here today about any
Open the door.
Why,
Open the door.
Alec may
open the door.
One of the issues that's still outstanding is issues of the financial
Yes.
motives that are that exist, and obviously the state has already made a case as to the admissibility of that information, but I believe clearly to add to that, the defense through their questioning has opened the door
Yes.
to that, and so
Yes,
this,
Creighton.
Witness has some information to start that, and I think that we've sort of gone through the looking glass on that very issue, Your Honor.
Yes, I
Your
agree.
Honor, very briefly, we fully briefed this. There are a very limited number of circumstances where
You opened
the
the
financial
door.
information would come in. Simply asking this young man, who they asked about his relationship with Alec and Paul and everybody, could you conceive of, I think we said, are there any circumstance under which you know
They need to roll it
that
back.
he might kill Paul and Maggie? And he said no. That didn't open the door to any financial.
Oh, the fuck it didn't.
Crime that he may have
Any
committed.
circumstance.
And
Any
again,
circumstance.
the admissibility of that financial information, those financial misdeeds, is not, I mean, this, this motive, by the way, is the most ludicrous. He's about to be discovered as having stolen some money that afternoon. So he goes home and butchers his wife and son to
You've
distract.
argued that before.
But what I'm saying is,
The court cut
This
him right off.
idea-
You've argued it before, you've called it ludicrous before. You're now repeating that same argument.
He's not having it.
perhaps I've said that. My point is, no door has been opened, and if we're going to have a full discussion on this,
Yep.
you indicated you needed factual basis.
Let's discuss.
There has been no factual basis established.
You established the factual basis
Yes, sir.
by
Your Honor, again,
Opening the
and we have
door.
argued this, and I'm not going to repeat the various arguments that I've made. I think.
Unlike
we
my
have,
learned colleague.
I do, just to sort of summarize a little bit, we do have a specific
Unlike my
confrontation that
esteemed
day.
friend.
We also have the pendency of that hearing, and for the jury to understand that, we have to understand the extent of what is about to be exposed and what that actually means for him, the prospect of losing everything in life without parole. Will Loving.
Let's see.
He is one of Paul's friends. He's mostly here to talk about firearms and the shell casings and things like that. But he also will talk about a little bit about the boat case, about the pressures on the family, about selling the house in Hampton, and the fact that that there were financial pressures because of that boat
The defense
case,
asked about that, too.
that they were having to deal with. And, I made it clear to the defense as well as to Your Honor that before we went into subject matter like that, that we would, of course, certainly alert the court. For this particular witness, that would be
the court's
the
alerted.
questioning that I intend to ask that witness.
the court is alerted.
That this witness, he's my witness, any information he has
He's
about
my
financial
witness?
pressure or the reasons they sold the house would be solely based upon hearsay, and it certainly didn't come from any conversations with the defendant. He has no independent knowledge of any of that. So aside from the overall 404B evidentiary rule.
Chanley, you're
there's
missing it.
no
Sit
basis
down, girl. It's
of-
getting the tea is
This witness
hot.
doesn't have any actual knowledge of that.
Chanley, the tea is hot.
We'll proceed with the testimony. I'll rule based on any objections I hear.
The
Bring
court's
the
like,
jury.
we're going step by step. I'm glad Creighton brought it up. It's interesting to me that Creighton waited till the break. He could have paused that witness on the stand and brought it up with the court. He chose not to, but he knows the procedures of this court and this judge better than I. But I think the defense kicked the door wide open with that because they said, "Can you conceive of any circumstance?" It gives the prosecution room to say any circumstance, like this, like that, and maybe not bring up things that happen after, but could you conceive of any circumstance where Alec Murdaugh could kill his wife and son? No. Okay, could you conceive of any circumstance where Alec Murdaugh, esteemed rich lawyer, would steal from his housekeeper and nanny's children after her death? Could you conceive of that? That doesn't seem like the Alec you know, does it? Can you conceive of a situation where he was stealing from the partners of his law firm? No? Right. That doesn't seem like the Alec you know. So maybe you can't conceive of all of the circumstances. So we'll see.
Curious present, sir.
Thank you. You
Oh.
may call your next witness.
Desiree, here's what I
Thank you, Your Honor.
understood.
State calls Will Loving.
Jim Griffin jumped in and said, "This is my witness," because he wanted to argue. Normally the court has like a one ass, one horse kind of rule. So if you're the one riding, you keep riding. So Jim Griffin was saying, "This is my witness," to tell the court, "I'm the one cross-examining this witness, so let me jump in on argument," because you can't normally have, you can't ride two horses with one ass, right? So that was That was Jim Griffin saying, Your Honor, this is why I'm interjecting. So this is another one of
Will
Paul's
Loving,
friends.
Loving.
Loving, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Sure doesn't want to be in court.
Tell the jury just a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? College?
Sure is
What
uncomfortable.
you do for a living?
I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. I went to high school at AC Flora. I graduated from Georgetown Tech with a forestry degree. Pursued that for a few years. Now I'm working down in Charleston for a marine construction company. That's about what I'm doing now.
What year did you graduate from high school?
Graduated high school in 2015.
Prepare to feel
and
old.
Graduated
I do.
from Georgetown in 2020.
Where are you living these days? Just
I'm
generally.
living in Charleston.
Have you ever, did you ever, over the course of your life, get to know Paul Murdaugh?
Yes, I did.
And tell me, when was that, roughly?
I met Paul when I was probably 15 years old, down at Edisto. He was probably 13.
This is Will, not
And,
Wills. There are two.
You know, our friendship just met on the beach one day.
There are two friends.
I met Paul, but we did pretty much everything together down at the beach whenever I was there and he was there. You know, we'd go hang out on the beach, we'd go on the boat, go fish, or, you know, just hang out.
Somebody mentioned the boat.
When you met him at Edisto, do you know where Paul was staying?
Yes, Paul was staying at his beach house at Edisto.
And over the years, as y'all's friendship developed, did y'all start to hang out more and more outside of Edisto?
Yes, sir, we did.
And how old were you when that started to develop more hanging out than just Edisto?
You know, probably once Paul was later on in high school, so I would have been, you know, 18, 19 years old. We started getting closer, and then, you know, when I was probably 21 and Paul was 19, we got pretty close.
How old are you now?
I'm 26.
What are some of the things as y'all got pretty close, what would y'all do together, aside from hang out at Edisto?
We would hunt and fish.
I don't think the video of the dog ever went to Rogan.
A lot. We'd go to Edisto a lot. Just kind of going wherever, going with the flow. We'd go down for a weekend in Charleston before either one of us, you know, before I was living there. But, you know, we lived
Charleston's
together in
fun.
Columbia for a short period of time, right before everything happened. But, yeah.
What do you mean by everything?
Now, you said y'all lived together, so y'all were roommates
Which
there for a
everything?
while before the murders happened?
Yes, sir.
And was it just the two of you in the house, or were others living there as well?
It was just the two of us, and I was kind of just a couch guest, but it kind of turned into a long-term thing.
Gotcha. Were y'all planning on getting an additional place around the time that the murders happened?
Yes, we had already been in contact with a house, about to sign a contract on a house, me, him, and another friend from Columbia.
I'm going to turn this down just a little.
You mentioned
Now
that you would go to
it's down.
Moselle a lot, and what would y'all do at Moselle?
I mean, we'd do just about anything, depending on what we were there for. If it was during a certain hunting season, we'd go hunting, or, you know, we might just be there hanging out for the weekend and might be there working. We did a lot of different things while we were there.
What kind of hunting would y'all do?
We deer hunted, we hog hunted, we duck hunted, we dove hunted, we turkey hunted, pretty much about everything.
hunting all
Tell
the
me about
time.
the hog hunting. How does that work?
We did it for a certain period of time with some dogs, and that was, you know, you got a pack of dogs that chase them down, and you go up and neutralize them. But then we also did it at night with a thermal scope. You know, it's based off heat vision, heat signals, so you could see them at night, and you had to use the thermal if you were going to do that.
Okay. And when y'all would hunt at night,
Emily Allison, this is the
on
only
Moselle
duck hunting
property,
I've
how
ever
would y'all
done.
physically do it? Would you walk
on my
around?
OG
Would you ride
Nintendo.
around on a four-wheel, or how would that work?
Most of the time we took a vehicle, whether it be one of the, you know, farm trucks or, you know, some sort of buggy.
You mentioned the thermal scope. What was that thermal scope on? What kind of weapon?
It was on a 300 blackout.
And what color was that 300 blackout?
It was black.
How many 300 blackouts did the family have?
They had two.
And were those the only two you're aware of, or was there a third one?
Those were the only two I was aware of. I had heard something about the third after
here,
the fact,
Brian,
but
take
the only two I was aware of was those two.
And what did you heard about the third?
I just heard it got stolen out of Paul's truck at a party
Was that years ago?
years ago, yes, sir.
So there was a replacement gun, a third one, is that correct?
Correct.
What was that gun like?
It was about the same as the black one, except for the color of it. It was tan. It didn't have any kind of sight on it, the first few times I saw it. And, but other than that, it was about the same thing, just a different color. It was a tanner color.
And where would that gun typically be located?
I never really saw it move from the gun cabinet room. Most of the time it was in the main house at Moselle in the gun cabinet room.
You mentioned that that particular gun didn't have a sight on it, or an optic on it, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And what does that mean? What's the difference between having a scope or a sight and not having? How do you shoot it if it doesn't have one of those?
So you have something called iron sights, which is just, it's already attached to the end of the barrel. It just has a little thing that you can see down, but nothing to zoom in your image. It didn't have a sight on it at all. The other one had the thermal sight that you used at night, and this one had no sight on it at all.
At some point, did y'all go get some sort of optic or some sort of sight for it,
Jack,
other than the
Dr.
iron
Lisa,
sights?
Yes, sir. We went and bought it's called a red dot sight. It's just got it's not very big. It's about maybe 2 or 3 inches, and it just has a little tube, a little red dot in the center of it. It doesn't zoom in either, but it gives you a little bit better of a look at what you're shooting at, a little bit better than an iron sight.
Is it like a thermal sight in that you can see what you're aiming at night?
No, sir.
So what do you see when you look through the red dot?
You can just see whatever's out in front of you from the naked eye.
And then how does the thermal work?
The thermal works at nighttime. You look and see heat glows up in a different color than black. It glows up in white, so you can see it very easily.
When did you and Paul go buy that red dot sight for that other blackout gun?
It was either in late March or early April. I'm not exactly positive on the date, but we bought it from the Ace Hardware in Hampton.
And when you say early March or late April, what year are we talking about?
2021.
You went with Paul to get that?
Yes, sir.
And what did y'all do after you got the sight?
We went back to Moselle and we put the sight onto the rifle and sighted it in.
Oh, where were you sighting it in from? I wonder if he was shooting off the side door on the stoop. This is the
Describe to the
replacement.
jury what you mean when you say you sighted it in.
This is the replacement weapon.
When you get a scope that's not already sighted in,
This is the replacement weapon that tool
you
mark
have to
matches the
calibrate it
murder
with the barrel
weapon.
of the gun.
That's why.
So you have to go and change certain things on the side or on the top, whether it needs to go up or down or left or right when you're shooting. So that's what we had to do with that one, and it just moves. It doesn't move the dot necessarily inside the scope. It just moves kind of the whole thing.
That makes sense.
Before we get to that, I want to ask about the property just a little bit. And I'm going to show you
I
what's
wonder
been
where they were
marked
sighting it in,
as
because in opening, the prosecution says
303.
Paul and his friends were sighting in the gun that
Step down
is now
with
the missing
judge's
one.
Permission, I want to ask you about a few areas on the
So I
property.
think that's the direction this is going to go in. If this was the friend, they went and bought it together. On the replacement one didn't have the thermal scope. They got the scope. They sighted it in. Those are the casings that match the casings near Maggie's body.
And, oh, I'm sorry. Is that better? And what are these structures up here right there?
This is what we call a shed or the dog kennels or airplane hangar.
Okay. And can you point out the kennels in that image?
Right on the side up next to the pine trees.
And where are the driveway entrances to the property?
I enjoy both of
You got
them.
this picture right here down to they come down to the main house right here, where you can come in up here and then come by the kennels and come down and then come down to the main house.
Was it common for everyone to use both of those driveways?
Yes, sir.
Which driveway did you usually use?
I didn't pass one driveway to get to another. Whichever way if I was coming from this way, I'd turn here. If I was coming from this way,
There were two guns. The tan one went missing years back. The suspected murder weapon was the replacement, and it seems to have
that is
wandered off
cabin
after
on
the
side of
murders.
road, just the old cabin.
And was there like a shooting range or a shooting house anywhere?
Yeah, there's a shooting range across the road right here. It goes. It's like
So they're
right
giving
here,
another
right
layout
here,
to the
right next
jury.
pond area.
This layout
This
would have
is a
been
little fish pond.
helpful. They don't stand for the jury.
What was the shooting house?
It was just a little wooden, gazebo-looking thing that you sat in and shot at a berm over here.
Was there a location that y'all know the property called the Dove Field?
Yes, sir.
And where was that?
It's right here behind this berm of pine trees.
Now, you said back after y'all bought that red dot site that y'all sighted in that, the blackout, is that correct?
Correct.
Right. And which blackout are you talking about?
The tan one.
The tan one?
The tan.
And that would have been not the black one, but the tan one, and not the one that went missing years ago.
Poots
Is that
pouting.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
correct? All right. And where did y'all sight that gun in?
We sighted it in off the side of the main house. Right here, there's a little thing of steps that comes into the gun room, and we used the railing of the stairs to brace on and shot down into here as they were building a pond right here, so there was a berm, so there was no.
So there was a second pond.
All right. You can have 614, please.
So they've switched microphones. Question, why does it seem like the prosecution backed off from everything to present motive, from even trying to present motive? They needed to argue it to the judge, which they did after the break.
When did y'all sight that gun in?
And we'll see what happens.
We sighted that gun in at the very beginning of April or one of the last couple of days of March of 2021.
And how do you know that it was
March, April
late March
2021.
or into April 2021 that you sighted in that
Right-
tan
right
blackout
before June
with the
7th.
red dot optic on it?
Because that same weekend we were out hunting hogs in the dove field with the thermal scope on the black 300 blackout, and we also took the brown 300, the tan 300 blackout, with us with the red dot sight, but it wasn't very usable because you couldn't see what you were shooting at as it was dark. But we used the thermal, and I remember we saw 4 turkeys up in a tree. And we were talking about maybe turkey hunting that morning right there, but I think we scared them when we decided to shoot at the hogs.
So y'all decided to sight in the tan one the next day or thereabouts?
Yeah, it was sighted in the day before, I believe.
So the
or same
replacement
day.
is also
And
tan?
y'all were standing right outside the gun room in the main residence.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's
Because the thermal
Exhibit
scope
88.
was... The thermal scope was
You recognize this
Buster's.
gun?
Yes, sir, that's the black 300 blackout.
All right,
that's
and what
Buster's
optic
gun.
is on this?
The thermal scope.
All right. Is this the gun y'all were sighting in, or was it a different gun that y'all were sighting in, standing right outside the gun room in March or April of 2021?
It was a different gun.
It was a different gun.
Yes, sir.
Did it have a different optic on it right here?
Yes, sir, it had the red dot sight on it.
It had the red dot.
The red dot sight gun is missing, but I thought the replacement was black. And I have a question about that. Because I thought the replacement was black. Because the tan one with
Show
the
you what's been
scope
previously admitted into
was
evidence
stolen.
as States 175. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, and tell me what that is.
This is the stairs that lead up into the door that go into the gun room on the main house.
Okay. And was that where you were sighting in that tan blackout with the red dot optic?
Yes, sir.
That's not the one you just looked at?
Correct, yes, sir.
And what's through that door right there?
The gun room.
The gun room into the game room.
All right, and describe, you said y'all were using the railing to brace it. What do you mean by that?
We were using this right side of this right side if you're coming down the stairs railing, because we're both right-handed, and you can brace up against it to make sure you're steady when you shoot at the target.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States
Look,
176.
if half
and
the
do you
chat
generally
is sitting
recognize
here
that
going,
image?
I thought it was a black gun. The jury probably is too.
Yes, the bottom of the brick below the stairs on the side door.
Was that where y'all, in the general location of where y'all were sighting in that third blackout with the red dot optic
Yes, sir.
in March or April of 2021?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as 177 States. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And what area is that, please?
That is the flower bed right next to the stairs going up.
Okay. Is that in the same general area where y'all were sighting in that blackout with the red dot optic?
Yes, sir.
States 179, do you recognize that?
Yeah, it's just the bottom of the bricks at the stairs again.
Okay. Same area where y'all were firing that?
Yes, sir.
States
And again,
180, do you
the
recognize that?
casings located,
Yes, the flower bed next to the stairs.
the casings located here,
Same general area where y'all were sighting in
Match.
that other blackout?
the
Yes,
casings
sir.
near
It's not
Maggie
the one I
Murdaugh's.
showed you?
No, sir.
It's not the one I showed you,
Oh, yeah.
correct?
No, sir.
So that's why it
States
matters.
181, do you recognize that?
Yes, sir. It's the bricks at the bottom of the stairs. Same area.
Same area?
Yes, sir.
They might have coded it after purchase. That's fair, chat.
States
They might have.
183.
Because the gun that went missing,
Yep, again.
The
it's
gun that was
bottom of the
taken out of
stairs,
Paul's
same
truck?
area that we were standing in.
was tan with a thermal sight.
All right, I'm going to show you now what's been marked as States 184. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the little gazebo type thing at the shooting range that you sit in to shoot your rifle or whatever you're shooting.
When Rogan was talking about the black gun, he was talking about the one with the sight. But the cousin who built it, I think said it was just basic. He didn't do anything extra to it because the other one got stolen
After
or
that
lost.
time in March or April of 2021, which you remember because it was turkey season, correct?
Correct.
When was the next time that you saw that tan blackout that had the red dot?
I do not recall seeing it again after we used it that night.
The black blackout, was that gun frequently with Paul?
Yes, sir. If he was at Moselle, a lot of the times we had it with us. Yes, sir.
All right, and where would you have it?
In the back seat of the truck most of the time, if we were, riding around late or coming home from somewhere late, just to, check something, go look for a hog or something.
Did Paul have a shotgun that he favored?
Yeah, he had his Super Black Eagle 3 Benelli shotgun.
And can you describe it any further? What did it look like? How was it colored?
The
It was
Benelli
camouflage and
is the
sort of
one-
like a cryptic, like bluish purple camouflage.
The Benelli's the one
Not
Alec
real sure of the
grabbed
name
out of the
it,
gun
but
room.
It was more of a distinctive color camouflage.
Like this one?
I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence.
That's what he's gonna, like this one?
As States 89.
Y'all, while they're looking at the gun,
recognize
go ahead
that?
and do the
I recognize it, yes.
YouTube things.
Okay, which gun is that?
I'm not sure whose gun that is, but it was used for turkey hunting.
Just go ahead and subscribe. Wait, Creighton,
Do you recognize that as one of the guns that was in the gun room at Moselle?
Yes,
I
sir.
think he grabbed the wrong gun. I think he meant for that to be the Benelli and he grabbed the wrong box. And I think he's playing it off. I think he totally grabbed the wrong box. He was waiting to open it up and be like, and this is the camouflage one, because he would have shown it to the jury. I think he grabbed the wrong box of guns. That's how many shotguns are sitting on the floor of this courtroom. This is part of why they admitted all the guns.
All right, now I'm going to show you what's been marked as States.
Alec didn't have as much of
Four
an
into
emotional
evidence.
reaction to this friend.
See if you recognize this.
Yes, sir. It's the camouflage Benelli.
All right.
I think
And
that's
which
the one
is
Creighton
that?
meant to grab.
Paul's shotgun.
Okay. And how can you tell the difference between the two camo ones? How do you know this one's Paul's?
It just has a distinctive camo pattern on it. They did have two of these shotguns that were the exact same.
That makes sense.
But this is the one you recognize as Paul's, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that makes sense. I'm frustrated when the
The,
prosecutors ask me
300
questions and I
blackout
get more
round.
confused. Because I'm like,
Is
what?
it a fairly loud round when it goes off?
It's a good
I
question.
mean, yes, I mean, it's a gunshot, so it's pretty loud, but it's not extremely louder than any other gun.
Is it louder than a shotgun?
It's probably a little bit louder than a shotgun, yes.
Did you ever have any conversation with Paul about getting a suppressor for that 300 blackout?
Yeah, I asked him why I didn't get one, and he said that, you know, when you put a suppressor on a gun like that, it decreases how far you can shoot and makes your accuracy go down. So the gun that we already had with the night vision was already not a very long distance gun, so he didn't want to put a suppressor on it.
That makes sense.
The, up at the kennels, up at the shed area, was it common for firearms to be up there?
You know, they were up there from time to time, but I don't think there were really any kept up there, no, sir.
On June 7th, 2021, did you ever have any conversation with Paul or communication with him?
Yes, I talked to him around dinner time. I was cooking dinner in the apartment that we were staying in, and he called me about wanting to get a hot tub for the house that we were about to move into. And then he sent me a Snapchat a little bit after that. And that was
This is
last
the
time I heard
earlier
from him.
Snapchat.
What
Oh,
was the Snapchat of?
It was of him and his dad looking at the trees and stuff that they had planted. They had one swoop down that obviously wasn't doing too good.
what was his dad wearing?
But it was just a video of them looking at trees.
And you watched that video on your phone or something like that?
This is the earlier
Yes, sir.
phone, the earlier video. I wondered when that video was coming in. Here it is.
Over the years, as you got to know Paul, did you also get to know his family as well?
Maybe.
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you
Maybe.
get to know Miss Maggie?
Yes, sir, I did.
To your knowledge, did Miss Maggie like to go down to the kennels?
Yes, she did.
And how would she get down there, do you know?
Sometimes she would use her bike or her car or walk. She liked to walk. There are 2 labs around a lot around the property, so it was not uncommon for her to go down there.
And what would she like to do when she went down there?
She would go down and look at the dogs and mess with the dogs. A lot of times she liked to ride her bike, you know, right before it got dark, you know, on a sunset or something.
That's how Alec
But
put it
She
too.
was a dog lover for sure.
That's exactly how Alec put it. She was a
Did
dog
she go
lover.
in the daytime or did she go at
She
night?
liked to go mess around with the dogs. That's exactly how Alec put it to the police.
I only saw her go during the daytime, most of the time. I mean, she might be down there once it got dark, but I don't think she would go down there after dark.
Would she go down there at dusk?
Let me ask you a little bit about Paul. What was his cell phone usage like?
He used his cell phone a lot.
Is he one to respond to you pretty quickly, typically?
Yes, sir. He would respond pretty fast.
You know where he kept it when he had it on him? What pocket he kept it in?
No, I do not. I know he kept it in one of his front pockets. I would have remembered if he kept it in his back pockets, but I don't know which one it was.
No, Stacy, I don't think he was coached. I think that's just what it was.
Were
Maggie
you,
liked to go mess around with the dogs. I just think it just rings it more true as you've got multiple
you find
people
out
saying
about
the
the
same
murders?
thing. I think that's just true.
I was called numerous times in the middle of the night. I finally woke up to one around midnight. I think it was 12:07 if I remember right. And it was a cousin of Paul's, and she told me about everything. And I was in the apartment at the time, and you know nobody really knew what was going on, so I got out of the apartment pretty quick. Drove to my parents' house, talked with them for a minute, and we had some friends that were all awake in Charleston, so I drove straight down to Charleston in the middle of the night.
Did you ever go to Moselle in the aftermath of everything?
Yes, sir. I believe I went on that previous Wednesday and saw the family.
Previous?
Did you ever have a conversation with Alec?
I did.
Did you talk to him about any conversations that you had with Paul that night?
No, I didn't. We mostly just grieved.
Did you ask him about what he was doing that night or what happened or the events of that night at all?
No, I did not.
The night scope wasn't used to kill Maggie. It was the replacement. But it was dusk when this happened.
Of
It
what's
wasn't
called the
all the
boat
way.
wreck or the boat case.
It wouldn't have been all the way dark yet.
Yes, sir.
The sun would have just been going
And were you
down.
aware that Paul had been charged in that boat case?
Yes, sir, I was.
Were you aware that Alec Murdaugh had been sued in that boat case?
Yes, sir, I was.
He's going to ask about whether Paul had been threatened, I think. Because I would like to know what this friend thought about Paul
Whenever
being
Paul,
threatened. Because he's going to be living with him. Were you afraid of living
did you
with
ever
him if
talk
he's
to Paul
getting
about
threats?
the boat case?
Not much, you know, I didn't want to bring up something like that.
Well, if he's getting threats and you're going to live together, wouldn't
You
you want to
mentioned
know?
that the family had an Edisto Beach house, is that right?
That's correct.
Had the Moselle property?
That's correct.
Did they have another property at one point in time?
Yes, they did. They had their house in Hampton.
Did they ultimately sell that property?
Yes, they did.
What was your understanding as to why they sold that property?
You can answer if you know.
It was just through the grapevine to help pay for some of the lawsuits that they were under.
The prosecution's treading lightly.
The objection is sustained.
You say through the grapevine. Did you ever have a conversation or were privy to a conversation with Alec about that?
No, sir.
When you, did you have a conversation or were you privy to a conversation with Paul about that?
We talked about the house being sold, but I don't believe he ever told me that that's what it was for.
Going back to the 300 blackout,
The problem with that is the
what was
shit's already out of
the
the horse.
sort of
for the
effective
defense.
range of that weapon?
But it's also not weird.
From what I was told from Paul, it was around 50 to 75 yards. It
It's
was
not weird that
accurate
lawsuits
up
are
to.
expensive.
Did that have anything to do with the discussion about why not to put a suppressor on it?
He said
Yes, it did.
When y'all were shooting that tan blackout 300 blackout rifle with the red dot optic
He should have asked Rogan.
on the side of the house in Moselle in March or April of 2021, who was doing most of the shooting of it?
Paul was.
The sighting in is important because
Did Paul express to you any dissatisfaction with that tan one in the optic?
of the objected casings.
No, he did not.
Did y'all discuss any frustration, though, with it being unusual for turkey shooting because of the optic that was on it?
For hog hunting?
For hog hunting, sorry.
No, not really. We kind of knew that when we took it with us that it was kind of pointless, but we just took it with us
Kind of
anyway.
pointless because you can't see at
The
night.
red dot was pointless
Yes, sir.
for night shooting.
For night hunting, yes, sir.
He's treading very lightly with this. But again, we heard the evidentiary hearing with the casings and tool marking experts, who's going to talk about the fact that the casings from them sighting in are the same casings at Maggie's body.
Present when
So who
they
has that
purchased the
gun?
red dot, is that right? Were
Yes,
you
sir,
and
I
Paul
was.
purchased the red dot?
Yes, sir.
Who paid for the red dot?
It was put on a store credit that was his father's.
That was his father's?
Yes, sir.
Whenever Paul needed money, who would he get that from?
He would normally text his dad.
When Paul needed money, what did he do? He texted his dad. He's going to tread real lightly, but he's going to keep going for it.
When you talked a little bit about Paul's habits, and you guys had an apartment in Columbia, right?
Yes, sir.
Did Paul like to go to Charleston a lot?
He did.
Charleston's
Like to
fun.
go to Moselle a lot?
He did.
Did he spend time in a lot of different places?
Yeah, he was all over.
He was all over.
Yes, sir.
happened to be back in Moselle on June 7th, 2021, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know why he was back at Moselle? I don't know why they're turning down the audio for this. Paul worked a little bit for his uncle, John Marvin, and he was in school.
All right,
They did say lawsuits plural.
one last thing. Have you had the opportunity to view a video
Here's
at
the
the
Snapchat
kennels of
video.
Moselle?
Yes, sir, I have.
I don't know if
And were you able to
this is going to be him
recognize
voice
any voices
recognizing
on that video?
the Snapchat
Yes, sir, I was.
video of the dog. The other video that was sent to him, I think we're going to have to wait for the custodian of records to come in on, which is odd.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to play.
Simply, Cheryl, Paul didn't get kicked out of law school. That was Buster, the brother. Paul was in college. So it was Buster that had gotten kicked out of law school for cheating. I think we're going to get into the kennel video.
Get that.
That now makes more sense now that we've heard it multiple times.
Quick, Cash. Come on. Quick. It's okay. Come here. Come here.
He is going to identify the voices in the video.
Hey, Baba.
It's a guinea.
This is a chicken. Come here, Cash. Cash. Quick.
It's kind of nice to see Will have a fond memory of his friend, or at least look like he's having a fond memory of his friend.
Whose voices did you recognize?
You could see him smile.
Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alex Murdaugh.
And how sure are you?
100%.
The person whose voice you recognize on there that you identified as Alec Murdaugh, do you see him in the courtroom here today?
Yes, sir.
Can you point him out for the jury?
He's sitting right there.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect he's identified the defendant.
It does.
Mr. Loving, please answer any questions the defense may have.
Cross-examination. Be interesting to see what they open the door for this time. Kate, I think so too.
Good afternoon, Will.
How you doing?
Good. It's a hard day, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
You mentioned about a Snapchat video that you received on sometime in the evening of June the 7th. Do you remember what time that was?
I don't. It was later in the afternoon, somewhere around like 7 o'clock-ish in that area.
And what was it of?
It was Alex and his son Paul. They were riding around looking at trees that they had built and, laughing, having a good time.
Everything. So he posted it on, I don't have Snapchat. Maybe most people here have Snapchat, but tell us a little bit about what that is.
Snapchat's an app on a smartphone that you can send pictures and videos to your friends. You can save pictures and videos, but it's just an app that most young people use.
And it's a way to share videos.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Something that
My kids have it, but are the videos supposed to disappear after
hello,
some period
fellow
of time?
kids.
Yeah, they have a limit on them. You can either send it it'll play over and over and over again until somebody clicks off of it, or you can go up to from 1 to 10 seconds. But you can also save a Snapchat if you want to look at later.
And is it like Facebook? You have friends that want to, be in your circle of Snapchat? Is that how
Yes,
that
sir.
works? And did Paul have
Your
a lot of
circle.
Snapchat?
Your circle
They
of
call friends on Snapchat?
Yes, sir, he did.
And would he frequently post things on Snapchat?
Yes, sir.
And would he frequently post things, events like he did on the evening of June the 7th when he and his father were out, messing around with a tree?
Yes, sir, he would.
And would he post stuff with his family events?
Yes, sir, he would.
Okay. And the Snapchat when he would post it, would it go to everybody who's in his, I guess, group?
Well,
Yeah, you have to
Not
send it to
necessarily.
certain people. He wouldn't necessarily put stuff. They have what's called a story that everybody that you're friends with can see. He wouldn't necessarily always put stuff on his story, but he would send stuff to.
I imagine
whoever-
pending the
whoever he
boat
wanted
case,
to.
he wasn't putting anything public to his
We're
story.
going to learn more about Snapchat.
Yeah, we're
but
gonna.
Let me ask you, when Paul would post on Snapchat, could people see
I haven't had Snapchat on
where
my
he
phone
was
in 100
posting
years.
from?
Maybe I need
Did
to
he have his
download
location
Snapchat.
services activated?
I don't think he kept his location on. Sometimes they have filters and stuff that show you different areas where you are. But I don't think he kept
Why
his
is he asking this? We know
Snapchat
the phone
location
doesn't
on.
say that.
Well, when he posted the video of he and his dad at Moselle, could you tell that he was at Moselle?
Yes, I could tell he was at Moselle just from being there, but, maybe somebody who doesn't know the property wouldn't know.
Okay. All right. You were asked,
I haven't used Snapchat in forever.
questions about the last time, you were with Paul and, getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. So you and Paul were good friends, and Paul was friends with your friend group out of Columbia, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
And then y'all would sort of migrate to Charleston, and some of the Columbia folks went to Charleston, and y'all would visit down there?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I guess originally you all met at Edisto with family homes and vacationing and, right?
Yeah, that's
Y'all's-
where everybody met until,
y'all's
everybody
beach
went to
homes were
college
on the
and
same
everybody just kinda
block.
meets up.
Okay. And
Sorry, can't relate.
sometimes Paul would come to Columbia and stay with you?
Correct.
And you had another friend, Wills Chapman, that he would stay with Wills?
Correct.
Okay. And, Paul, left a 300 blackout at your house for some period of time, didn't he?
Yes, sir, he did.
How long did Paul leave a 300 blackout at your home?
Which one was it?
Probably a month or so at least.
Okay. And I think when Wills Chapman moved to Charleston, what did he find in his closet?
He found Paul's deer hunting rifle.
That Paul had left there?
Yes, sir.
And Paul had thought he had lost his deer hunting rifle.
Correct.
And lo and behold, it was at Wills Chapman's house, right?
Yes, sir.
Was that unusual for Paul to leave stuff everywhere?
No, not at all.
And so he was, would he leave guns around the farm?
Yeah, he would every now and again.
We'd leave them, say, in the golf cart.
Yes, sir.
And we leave them in unlocked trucks.
Yes, sir.
And you were asked about the kennels, but what about in the workshop, the shed? We leave guns down there.
That's where I was, referring to. You'd see him down there sometimes, but I don't think there was ever guns permanently down there, no, sir.
Okay. And
The defense is trying to get to alternate theories with this line of questioning.
and when he left the
Alec
300
didn't have
blackout
the
in
guns.
Columbia, was it the
Anybody
one
else
that
could have had the guns.
Mr. Waters showed you, this black one with thermal scope?
Yes, sir, it was.
And you learned at some point in time that he got there was a replacement for one he had previously lost?
Yes, I did. I didn't even know that it was a replacement. Like I said, I didn't know about the original one. I just remember seeing the brown one.
And that brown one did not have a scope, right?
No, sir, it didn't, until we
And-
bought one.
And you went,
It's time for jelly beans.
and you went with Paul to Ace Hardware Store and
It's the end of the
purchased a
day.
scope and a mount for it, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the day that you purchased the scope and the mount, was it the weekend that you were talking about, where the last time you used it?
I'm not sure if it was that weekend or maybe the next weekend, but they were both pretty close together.
Okay, but you were there when he purchased the scope and the mount?
Correct.
And you went, did you go back to Moselle and put it
Pear.
on the gun?
Pear jelly beans.
Yes, sir, we did.
And did you use the gun that weekend? Or or waited till the following weekend?
I'm not 100% sure if we used it that weekend or if it was the following weekend. I know we cited it in that day that we bought the scope for it.
So that was the day when you were shooting off the railing beside the gun.
These are expensive
Correct.
guns.
The day you bought the scope.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's
They are.
possible you hunted with it that weekend, but if not, it was the following weekend.
Yes, sir.
And had you ever seen that gun again after that weekend or the following weekend, whichever it was?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay. And would you be able to more accurately provide, know when it was? I think you said late March, early April. If you saw the receipt from the purchase?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what was marked as Defendant's Exhibit 62. And ask you, first, do you recognize Paul's signature on that document?
Yes, sir, I do.
You know that to be his signature?
Yes, sir.
And does that reference the purchase of red dot scope and the mount?
Yes, it does.
And that's from Ace Hardware?
Yes, sir.
And were you there with Paul when he bought it?
I was.
Your Honor, we will introduce Exhibit 62 in evidence at this time.
Did they give a date for the
Different one
receipt?
than the one you just handed him that you said.
It's the same
is
one.
in- It's already in evidence, isn't it? It's just marked for identification, or is it in evidence already?
Sorry, Dr. B was talking.
Evidence right now.
It's in here.
Thank you. Will you tell the jury what the date of that is?
It is March the 6th,
Okay.
2021.
And Your Honor, I have
So they were
a
citing in the
calendar
gun
here
March
that says
6th.
March 6, 2021 is a Saturday, and I would just like the court to take judicial notice that March 6,
That shouldn't be a
2021
problem.
is a Saturday. No objection. Thank you. So knowing that it was purchased on March 6, 2021, a Saturday, does that help you reflect, remember when you last used the gun?
Refresh is the word you want, Jim. It's
yeah.
been a long day. I get it.
So that was a Saturday, so we would have cited it in that Saturday. And I do remember using the gun. It was the first week of turkey season because we were going turkey hunting the next morning, which would have been either March 20th or March 22nd. I can't remember what it was 2 years ago with the opening day of the season.
They're
So it
trying
would
to
have been
establish that there was enough
3
time for
weeks
this
after
gun
we
to go
cited it in.
missing
Okay, so you cited it on March.
between March and
6th.
June.
Yes, sir.
That's what they're trying to establish. So they're trying to establish a timeline of when the gun could have wandered into somebody else's hands, not Alex. So that's what they're trying to say.
When was the last time you saw Paul in person?
It would have been the weekend previous, or 2 weekends previous to when everything happened. It was Memorial Weekend.
So you saw him Memorial Day weekend?
Yes, sir.
And where did you see him?
We all stayed at the Edisto Beach House.
And when you say we all, who are you referring to?
All the friends.
Me, myself, and 3 or 4 other buddies, along with Alex, Maggie.
Notice he
and
calls him
I
Alex.
believe that was it.
And,
Which is interesting.
Did you,
The friends who grew up
spend a lot of time
from
with
childhood call him Alec.
Paul around his dad?
He
and mom?
calls him Alex.
Yes, sir, I did.
And how would you describe Paul's relationship with his father?
It was an awesome relationship.
And what do you mean by awesome?
It just kind of seemed like Paul was the apple of his eye.
Okay. And from your observation, you tell
Alex
the
said
jury
that in
what-
his interview
what-
too.
What you observed of Alex's relationship with Maggie.
Exactly that.
I thought they had an awesome relationship as well, from everything that I could see. You know, they were always laughing and everybody got along. You know, nothing was out of the ordinary at all.
Did Maggie and Alec open their home up to Paul and Buster's friends?
Yes, they did.
How many people stayed at the Edisto Beach House that Memorial Day weekend?
I'm not 100% positive, but at least 3 or 4 friends.
Okay, and where'd y'all stay?
All in the bedrooms. I think somebody might have been on the couch on the porch outside. Maybe the couch inside as well.
Okay. And was Buster there?
I believe Buster was there, but I'm not 100% sure.
And did he have any of his friends there?
Yet again, I'm not sure.
Huh.
You mentioned that when you got a phone call
It's odd to
from
me he doesn't,
Paul's cousin, I
if they were
believe,
there for a Labor Day party, Memorial Day party, that he doesn't
after
remember
midnight
if
on-
Buster or his friends
on
were
June
there.
7th, so early morning, June the 8th. You learned what happened, and your immediate reaction was to hightail it out of there?
Yes, sir.
And were you fearful for your safety?
At first I wasn't, and then I was calling back other friends, and people started telling me to get out of there. So then I started second guessing myself, and then I got out of there.
And when you left, I mean, did you even lock it up when you left?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Huh.
I'm going to show you what I marked as Exhibit 61, and it's a disc. And before you testify today, did you have an opportunity to view that very short video clip on the disc?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you? Are those your initials on the disc?
Yes, sir, they are my initials.
And is it a short video of the Memorial Day weekend when you were down at Edisto with Paul and your friends and Maggie and Alec?
Yes, sir, it is.
And is it sort of a birthday celebration for Alec?
It was a birthday celebration for Alex.
Your Honor, I would like to introduce the
Why?
61 evidence and
Why?
play the video.
Submit without objection.
Oh, they said no objection. What's going to be weird is how the family and friends of Mallory Beach feel if they were just partying at the beach house in the weeks running up to his trial for boating under the influence causing her death. That's gotta be tough. There's a lot of conflicted emotions in this trial, I'm sure. But he was the apple of his eye is an interesting thing to say. Alec crying before this video starts is interesting. But it's interesting because that's exactly what Alex said in his police interview that we've heard earlier. He was the apple of my eye. But Alec also said, what was the other phrase? Oh, that Maggie liked to it's like 3 or 4 phrases that were exactly what Alex said in his interview that this witness has said. The first time I was like, oh, everybody's saying Maggie liked to go down to the kennels and mess around with the dogs. But now when we get back to, oh, and now, Paul was the apple of his eye, it just, there's a question. There's some coincidences in his testimony and what Alec has previously said in the police cam that is just interesting to me.
Can you just play it without the sound? Yeah, I sure can. We're just going to play it without the sound, but you've seen the video?
Yes, sir.
Are people singing happy birthday to Alec?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay.
But why are we playing it with sound? If anything, I think this opens the door for the prosecution. I think this opens the door for the prosecution to get into more motive evidence. I really do. I think this is going to open the door more. I would want to know if this witness had seen the video,
Wednesday after
the video interview.
Paul and Maggie were murdered, you went to Moselle, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
With some friends of yours?
Yes, sir.
I mean, the friends of Paul's?
Yes, sir.
How many?
I think 3 of us went.
And how many other people were there, friends of Paul's?
There was a lot of friends of Paul's there.
More than 10?
On Wednesday, I don't know. I don't think so. I think a lot of people were kind of trying to feel out the situation, so just like closer friends went. But there was probably 10 or so of his friends there when I was there.
I think you wanted to say super
And what
close
was
friends. but I get
Alex
it.
Murdaugh's demeanor on the Wednesday?
He was grieving, crying a lot. I think we all were.
I think you, described it that he just couldn't talk. You remember that happening?
Yeah, it was pretty hard to talk when, he came and grabbed me and two other guys, and we just kind of had a big hug, and it was pretty tough for him to make words.
Jim Griffin is again trying to ask questions
he
like he
crying?
wasn't there, but he was there.
Yes, sir.
When this
Were
was
you
going on.
crying?
Yes, sir.
Everybody there crying?
Yes, sir.
They were all grieving. So now we're going on redirect. I think they opened the door.
To your video, if you would, please. Can y'all turn that screen around for me, please?
Huh. Jim wasn't in the audio. Jim was there in Moselle in the days after the murder.
Still at the very end, please. Of that video.
So Jim was there. Holy. Ugh.
Who's that guy in the green shirt? Do you know?
That's Chris Wilson.
Do you know Chris Wilson's relationship to Alec Wilson or Alec Murdaugh?
Yeah, I think they're best friends.
Oh.
Friends.
Oh dear.
Best friends should do each other right. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh. Big door. Big door opened.
You were asked about
Door. The
when
door's
you
been
found
opened.
out about
Opened.
the murders.
Opened. Here's the
You talked
door.
to some people, and then you kind of hightailed it out of your place, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you were scared, or at least thinking about the possibility of some sort of harm. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh
It
boy.
was a shock for everyone, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
It stopped everything in its tracks, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
And everybody was worried about this family and what was going on and what had happened. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Anything else people were worried about went out the window. They were all focused on Alec at that moment, were they not? In themselves. Is that correct?
I think
Creighton
they were
is-
focused on everybody that had anything to do with it.
Creighton is
And
running
everything
through the
that had
door.
anything to do with this family. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He's kicking it. Hold on. The jury doesn't know who Chris Wilson is yet, chat. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Somebody came in like a wrecking ball. Creighton is just...
Shown the Snapchat video. You were also asked about another Snapchat video that you saw the day of the murders.
Yes, sir.
And what was on that video?
It was a video of Alex and his son riding around looking at trees that had fallen over on the tractor or on the golf cart.
Was it a short clip?
Yes, sir, it was.
Are they going to show it now? Okay. I think he's telling him they're going to show it now. Y'all, we'll get to Chris Wilson. I promise. Chris Wilson is the one that Alec was confronted about at work the morning of the murders. There's a much more complex history there, but Chris Wilson is an attorney who is wrapped up in some of these financial things with Alec.
I have State's Exhibit 306.
And the check, the missing money from the law firm, all happened that day.
Admitted.
All happened June 7th. But the jury doesn't know that yet. So it perks up my mind because I've been following all of
Back over, I'm gonna play that tree video.
the ancillary cases. But the
Now,
jury
what time
needs to
do you
know.
recall receiving this video, to the best of your recollection?
It was later in the afternoon. I believe it was after I cooked dinner, so probably around 7 o'clock, sometime in there.
I'll tell you what, in the summer, 7 o'clock sometimes feels like the afternoon because it stays light so late. So that's fair to me.
saw?
Yes, it is.
That was on the afternoon or the evening of June 7th,
Do we
2021?
see anyone
That's correct.
in the video, or do we just see the trees? So at 7 p.m., they're riding around laughing on the property.
Clothes that he was wearing, at least in that video you saw, on the evening of June 7th, 2021?
Yeah, those are the clothes I saw in the video.
We can't see Creighton. Can you spell it out for the class? Can you help?
Long pants and a shirt,
Yep. Yes, sir.
and those particular shoes.
Yes, sir.
It's giving he's wearing
You watched
different
that
clothes
video in real
vibe.
time when it came in from Paul's phone that evening, is that correct?
That is correct.
So he's wearing different clothes. Though, if he's riding around, he could have changed clothes for dinner. He never tells the police he
You were,
changes clothes.
Asked about the relationship that you observed between Alec
He had
and
shorts on when the
Paul
police
and Alec
came.
and Maggie, is that correct?
That is correct.
To your eye, it was a very good relationship, is that correct?
He's going back through that door
Certainly a
now.
Good relationship, in my point of view.
Did you know anything about Alec's finances?
And here he goes.
No, I did not.
Did you know anything about his law practice?
No, I did not.
Did you know anything about where he gets his money?
No, I did not.
Did you know anything about where he was spending his money?
No, I did not.
Did you know anything about what his bank account balances were?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you know anything about the debt that he was carrying? Do you know anything about that?
No, sir.
Did you know the specific things that were going on
Jim
in the
Griffin's
boat
on high
case
alert. Look at him.
The week that Paul and Maggie were murdered?
He's ready.
No, sir.
He's ready to
Do you know
object.
anything about civil discovery and how it can expose financial information?
No, sir.
Do you know anything at all about him being confronted
gonna
on
object.
June 7th, 2021 about,
Object.
Right in the middle of the question.
did you know anything about him being confronted
At work
the
on June
morning of
7th?
June 7th, 2021 about $792,000 of missing fees from his law firm?
Objection, Your Honor. It's totally improper.
Objection's overruled.
Did you know anything about that?
No, I did not.
Creighton
Any of
is
the facts
like,
of those things that I just asked you about?
No, sir.
Creighton just Miley Cyrus through the damn door.
Nothing further.
Yeah, I bet he has nothing further.
Anything further?
I would just stay down. Woo! Well, the shit's out of the horse now on the money. It's gonna keep going. Creighton,
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. We'll see you at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Please do not discuss the case.
I imagine we're gonna hear some motions from the lawyers first thing in the morning. Make a note. Be on time to court tomorrow, because I imagine the defense is gonna have a few things to say. They did not like that at all. I think they opened the door for it, honestly, wide open. Like wide open spaces with them opening the door. I hope we see them. They are going to have a conversation. Can we zoom? Can we zoom on? There we go. There's our zoom. We're switching feeds because I wanted to see it. I just want to see what's wrapping up at the end of the court day. They are definitely having a conversation about that. Oh no, we're not done. Put the volume back up. Where's the volume? What is the judge saying? They all sat back down.
This day, tomorrow morning, however, I will address the Rule 404 issue, particularly 404B that provides that evidence of other wrongs, crimes, or acts
That's what I said.
may be admissible to show motive.
Oh, he's going to
and
grant
some other
he's going to
things.
grant the
And
prosecution's
we'll address
motion.
that issue tomorrow morning, and
What time?
as far as witness preparation or witness availability, particularly in light of my ruling with regard to the last question
Because it's
posed.
coming in.
Trust that the state will be prepared to move forward with evidence that establishes facts by clear and convincing evidence.
Oh.
And we'll be in recess till 9:30.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, well, motive evidence is coming in. So that's what's happening. The court has invited the prosecution to bring the action. And the court has let the prosecution know, hey, based on my last ruling where he overruled the defense's objection, based on my last ruling, be prepared to ask again tomorrow. The court is going to allow this to open because the defense opened the door with one question. This is why lawyering is such an attentive sport. He asked the witness Rogan, and I'll go back and find the exact words, but he asked the witness, is there anything you could conceive of as to why Alec would do this to his wife and kids? Well, that opens the door to the prosecution going, but did you know this? And did you know this? And did you know that? And that is why we are here. Alec is going to be pissed. So I am very interested to see. I'm very interested to see this and hear these arguments tomorrow. We're going to hear the prosecution lay out more at 9:30, and we are going to see how much the prosecution will be able to get into. But they got into it today, and the court said, I'm not ruling on this in advance. I need to hear it as it comes in. And the prosecution, though I was saying the door is open when they had Rogan on the stand, they waited until after the break, which is appropriate. But I think that can't be a day that the defense is happy with. I'm just interested to see it coming in because I do think the motive is important. I don't think the prosecution has any shot at much with this case without getting into some of the motive, because you're going to have a lot of witnesses and a jury going, why would anyone do this? Why would anyone do this? And now you're hearing, did you hear that this morning he had been confronted about over $700,000 of missing fees in a case with Chris Wilson? That was the part that wasn't tied in. But why in the world would the defense play the fucking birthday party video with Chris Wilson in it, knowing that this is where the prosecution wanted to go? Why? Why? I'm just kind of mind numbed. Why bring that video in when you know? Okay, we're going to try to do a summary and then we're going to answer questions. We have a lot to talk about now that we're wrapping up court for the day that we didn't get to talk about, because today there were very few lulls, not lulls, but slow points in the trial today and this afternoon. So much happened this afternoon. It's going to take me a minute to sit down, but the playing of that birthday video was maybe a strategic fail, because I don't think it gets you anywhere good as the defense. And I think as the prosecution, that's the final straw for the court. Once they brought the birthday video, it's like, yeah, but you're getting into everything they knew. And they're trying to paint the perfect life and the perfect wife and the perfect son, and everything was ideal. And then someone came in and shot Maggie and Paul. That's what the defense is trying to show. And the prosecution gets to rebut that instead of just poking holes in the prosecution's case, which before lunch, they had done a very good job at. They did a very good job this morning poking holes into it. So why not stick to poking holes? Did the defense get cocky? Is this what their client wanted? Was it short-sighted? Did they think the judge was going to go their way? Did they think this evidence wasn't coming in? Woo! Do they think that financial crimes aren't enough? Wow. Okay, we're going to try to do a quick summary. Wow. I don't have words. Y'all. Why play the birthday video? I'm going to need other people's thoughts. Why play the birthday video? At their beach house. They had a full-on, we're at the beach house, singing happy birthday. What? To make it look like they're all a happy, loving family. But if you make it look like they're all a happy, loving family, you get to show the other side. Why not just leave it out? Just leave it out. Why? Woo, that was wild. We're gonna need to get to a summary real quick. I think the defense got a little bit ahead of themselves this afternoon. They were doing great this morning. We are at the end of day 8, and this afternoon we got a break from law enforcement testimony, from cell phone evidence, and we started seeing testimony from Paul Murdaugh's friends, from Rogan and from Will. And we heard not just about the guns that they were shooting, the things that they were doing. We saw more about the Snapchat videos. We got voice identifications in the Snapchat video with Cash, the Black Lab Snapchat video or video that was taken on the phone. And it seems like was never sent to Rogan, but he saw that video or was provided that video after it was extracted off of Paul's phone, and they showed it to him, and he identified, that's my dog. I hear Paul, I hear Maggie, I hear Alec. And then we saw the exact same thing from his friend Will Chapman in the afternoon. But then the defense at the end of Rogan's testimony asked him, is there anything you can, I think the exact words were conceive of, but I need to go back and check, it's been a long afternoon, that would make Alec kill his wife and son? And he was like, no, nothing. And the prosecution started to tread into motive evidence and then backed away. And I yelled at the screen. I was like, nope, door's open. The door has been flung open. It is time. In law, what it means when the door is open. And we saw this in Depp v. Heard. When there is an area that you might not be able to get into, and then the other side does something, it opens up a line of question based on their action. Yes, you might not be able to get into it, but if the other side does something that you have to respond to, the door has become open to that evidence. They have unlocked it, as it were, or wrecking balled it down with their own questions or actions. And so that's the question to Wills that I think, not to Wills, apologies. That's the question to Rogan that I think opened the door. The prosecution treaded away, and I was critical of that. I was like, yo! And then the court immediately took a break. When we got back from break, the prosecution said, we're going to get into motive. Dick Harpootlian got up and started to argue, and the court immediately said, you've said that. Stop. I wonder if the court was annoyed. Was the court annoyed that Dick was just wandering in and out like a free-range pony all day? He was like, in court, out of court. Where was he all morning? Dick Harpootlian was in and out of court all morning long. Maybe the court was just like, you don't even go here today, Dick. Sit down. But he's like, you've made this argument. We'll go question by question. We'll allow it. So as we get into the second witness of the afternoon, Paul Murdaugh's friend Will, we see in cross-examination the entrance of a video on Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend. Everybody's at the beach house, as one does. Not me. I'm not us, as apparently people do. Singing happy birthday to Alec Murdaugh, in the weeks before his son's, Paul's, boating under the influence homicide trial. So they're singing happy birthday, and the prosecution, you can see when Creighton gets up on redirect, he has that big Creighton energy. He's got the horse that has been let out of the gates. I have too many metaphors in this summary. I'm sorry, it's been a long afternoon. He is running through the questions because the door has been opened and he is sprinting through it literally as fast as he fucking can. Did you know about his debts? Did you know about his finances? Did you know about this? Did you know about that? The defense never objected to leading because they were open-ended questions. Did you know that morning Alec Murdaugh had been confronted at work about it's like $790,000, $792,000 of missing client funds or missing fees from his law firm. I don't remember exactly what Creighton said. And the witness is like, no, the defense objected. The objection was overruled. Shortly after that, the witness was completed. The door to motive evidence and these financial crimes and the mounting storm around Alec Murdaugh, getting into the criminal boat trial, getting into the civil boat case, and getting into the lid being blown off of his financial crimes is going to happen tomorrow morning. So the court, after the jury was excused, told the prosecution to be prepared for the 404 motions. No, the 404 is not error not found. The 404 is 404A and B, which is a section of the evidence code, and I'll grab the evidence code tomorrow if we need to read through it, but it's a section of the evidence code that allows you to bring in evidence that might otherwise not be admissible. So that otherwise not admissible evidence is allowed to come in to prove something else. This is propensity evidence. Normally you can't just say, see, this person did all this shit, so they're probably likely to do this shit. That's not allowed, except in a very limited circumstance of cases. We talked about this in cases like Josh Duggar. There are certain types of offenses where propensity is allowed. This is not one of those cases. So asterisks for all the lawyers who are like, but there's actually, yes, there is. But that's not this case. We're not there in this case. So when is propensity evidence allowed? They did these other things and it matters. Well, when it's not being used to say, see, they did all this other shit, so now they did this shit. It's being used to say, see, this is the context of other bad acts that were happening, and that becomes motive. So I think we are going to get motive evidence, and we're going to see a very fiery argument tomorrow morning, right at 9:30. I am ready for it. I am surprised at the defense. I'm surprised at that video. It really gave the prosecution something that they needed. Why is the birthday video a smoking gun? It's not. It's the wrecking ball that opened the door. It's the wrecking ball that opened the door to the rest of the motive evidence coming in. So it's allowing the jury to hear evidence that up until today, they didn't really have a way to get into. So the prosecution, which metaphor are we going with? Football. We'll go with sports ball. We're going to go with the sports ball metaphor. The defense video was a fumble, and the prosecution is going to pick it up and run. And that's where we're at the end of the day today. Woo, that's going to be interesting. So you're going to hear more. If you know who Chris Wilson is, you're all going to be like, oh, that's coming in tomorrow. If you don't, stay tuned because you're going to find out more. But wow, this is I think maybe a little bit of a turn of the tide for the prosecution. The prosecution has had slogging evidence that has not been really easy to pay attention to some of the days. It's like, great, birdshot and buckshot and steel and lead and fine. But now we're getting into the cell phones. Now we're getting into really what else was going on around the time and what else was going on in Alec Murdaugh's world that nobody else knew about. What his son knew about. What his son's friends knew about. Of course they didn't know. They saw the good times. They saw the money. But what we're learning is those 3 houses had gone down to 2. So Moselle had been a hunting property. Hampton had been their main home. The beach house had been their beach house. But now we've got the beach house and Moselle because the Hampton house had been sold. So now Moselle seems to be where Alec is living, and the beach house seems to be where Maggie is living. So where are we? Where are we in those? Why is the chat saying Mr. Beast in the chat? Actual Mr. Beast is probably not in the chat. Though if he is, hi Jimmy, how are you? The real Mr. Beast would have a check mark after his name in the chat. If it is in the chat and I can't see it, then, if it is actually Mr. Beast, hi Mr. Beast. Good to see you, Jimmy. Thanks for being in the chat, I guess. So today we need to get to questions. He does have a check mark. I just can't see it because I'm in my, you guys are telling me yes. Okay. Hi, Jimmy. We're busy talking about murder trials up in here. I liked your last video. So, chat was requesting code red. Chat, we can't go to code red. We go to code red for fuckery. This isn't fuckery. No, you guys are like, that's indeed Mr. Beast. Hey, okay. Hi, Jimmy. The chat is like, who's Mr. Beast? You know what? This is something that Jimmy will tell you all around the world on YouTube is it doesn't matter if you have I think he's over like 130 million subscribers on YouTube. There will still be audiences that are like, "Wait, who?" It's okay. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. Go check out his channel. But I Mr. Beast is like, "No, I'm not Mr. Beast." Totally fair. So the chat was requesting code red. Here's the reason we can't go to code red. Because we keep code red for fuckery and we don't have fuckery. Here's why we don't have fuckery. We have lawyering. This is lawyering. We saw really good lawyering yesterday, earlier today. We saw great lawyering on cross-examination this morning. And the lawyer who did all the tech, we loved that guy. The lawyer, the defense attorney that did all the tech is sitting at the table like this. He's got to be like, fuck. Why the birthday video? No, not the birthday video. So we need to get to questions. It's time. It's just good lawyering. You never know what's going to happen in a trial. This is the Kate Moss moment so far of this trial, but criminal prosecutors look like assholes if they turn around and go, "Yo!" They can't do that. It just does not play the same way as when Ben Chu does it. All of us are like, "Oh, so adorable." When criminal prosecutors do it, the response is, "Ew, that's distasteful." That's distasteful. The criminal prosecutors can't just be like, It's not okay. So we need to fuck around and find out. We have lots to talk about after trial today. And then I'm going to have to wrap my mind around the Tom Girardi stuff. Like the lawyer dynasties are fucking crumbling in criminal ways because this attorney's got over 100 indictments. Tom Girardi now has 2 indictments in different states with lots of counts. So we have lots and lots to do. Thank you, Miguelina, Miguelina, will you grab a link for that? Because I can send it to Jimmy. So the fake Mr. Beast in the chat doesn't know that I can send the channel link to the real Mr. Beast, but that's okay. So that's why we're not going to DEF CON Red, because I don't think it's fuckery. It's just all right. It's time to fuck around. Y'all, yes, I will. I saw the questions. Will I post my timeline once I've updated it? Yes, I will share it, but I'm going to keep updating it. So let's get to some questions. Do we know the charges / prison time Paul was facing? Paul, I don't know the time. Paul was facing 3 counts of boating under the influence, 1 causing death and 2 causing injury. So he was facing some time, but not all in all. And he had not even been handcuffed. He was not even really booked. They took his picture at the courthouse. So it was just wild. I understand that Alex's life is crumbling, but why kill his wife and son without life insurance? This is a question that we're going to have to see what the prosecution says. I don't know what answer they will offer for that. It is wild. That video was, I used donate and pledge synonymously energy. Did you hear the gasp from the jury side of the room? I didn't hear it. I'll go back and look. I didn't hear the gasp on the birthday video. The birthday video seemed like an odd choice. I want to hear from the defense attorneys. So I look forward to seeing what Runkle and Natalie Lawyerchick and the other defense attorneys say. Question, is it me or did that last witness blow up on Alec Murdaugh? A little bit. He changed his clothes, Kathy. Yes, he did, which he never told the prosecution about. Question, with the missing money, could this lead to the jury thinking his defense is less credible because he had a tendency to lie for his benefit, especially with the lies to law enforcement being so obvious? I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, we know Alec Murdaugh lied. Does being a liar make him a murderer is what the jury's going to have to grapple with. Second question, was there any fingerprints on the phones? 2, was there any life insurance? I've heard nothing about life insurance. I've seen nothing about life insurance. And were there any fingerprints on the phones? I don't know if they fingerprinted the phones. We haven't gotten there yet. It looks like they might have fingerprinted Maggie's phone, But even if they did, Alec had reason to be touching it. Like his fingerprints had reasons to be on the phone. What would be more telling is if they fingerprinted it and found someone else's or didn't find someone else's. Thank you for the visual timeline. I'll go look for it after we're done. Do you know if any of Maggie's family will be testifying? I don't think so, but we will see. We will see. So I think Jim thought that the video wouldn't open the door enough, but it did. Dick took the bait and opened the door. I think they might have, but they're trying to bait the prosecution into the blood spatter evidence, which is what they're trying to do. So this is part of the lawyering. Do you think Paul may have been shot in the head because the killer thought it would hinder the phone being unlocked? I don't think so. I don't think it was that intentional. Truly, I think it was too fast for it to be that intentional. Possibility of anyone of the boat case. They asked about whether or not, or everybody in the boat case was investigated. So, I'm just answering a question because I can't type and talk at the same time. So it was very interesting to watch. You could watch it like we were watching it happen in real time, which is the thing about watching live trials. There's a lot of bits that you're just like snooze. And then there's moments where you're like, oh, it's happening. It's all happening. And we saw that with the defense this morning when the defense started going, so if one person had two phones in the same place, would they both track at the same time? We're like, yes, tell us more. We need to know. We need to know everything. Tell us right now. And after what happened after this was, ooh, well, that's interesting. Question, no life insurance, but could the fact that Maggie wouldn't allow another mortgage on the beach house be a factor? It could be. I don't know if that's going to come up. I don't know if they'll know that. But yes, there were some documents. Oh, Natalie Lawyer Chick's going to be live tonight. Great. There were some documents that were indicating that she didn't want more loans to be taken out. And it's interesting because they asked Rogan if he knew about selling the house, and he said, yeah, to pay for the lawsuits. So that the jury is supposed to disregard it, but I think they'll hear it. Let's see. Could the reason he may have killed Paul harsher than he felt like Paul? I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know. I don't know why he grabbed one gun versus the other. I don't know if he anticipated. I don't think people who have never killed humans before quite anticipate what that's like, even if they hunt animals. I don't know. I just don't know. How do you just as beautiful after a full day of work and your hair up? My camera's generous to me. That's why it's lies. And my glasses help hide the bags under my eyes. I love them so much. They also help me like read and not have migraines and all the things. But don't underestimate the value of a fill light. A crime scene where the cause of death is by gun and the property owner has a gun room. How were people other than SLED allowed in the room the day after? Yeah, Brianna, I don't know. I don't know at all. They had everybody walking around this property even when they were still collecting evidence. I think that goes a long way to how much deference they were paying to Alec Murdaugh. They definitely didn't treat him like we're locking down the property. We're taking your phone. Nobody come here. They treated him like a reporting party who was grieving the loss of his wife and son, not like a suspect. They gave him a lot of deference. They're a very powerful family. Defense played the happy birthday video. Prosecutor, you've activated my trap card. Gamer Taco. That's exactly right. Some in the chat will get the reference, some will not. Those in the chat who get the reference, you're welcome to share it or not. Eliza, it's so good to see you all day. Alec thinks he's untouchable, or thought he was. I think so too. And it unraveled. When it unraveled fucking fast. And then we have to talk about Girardi soon. I saw a question. Where is the second interview? Where is the second video? We have not seen that on social yet. I think that was the question I saw. So, all right, let's keep going through some questions. I feel like someone is doing some talking to witnesses. It was very interesting with the second witness, the way he answered. And that could be just because they all know each other so well, they kind of use the same colloquialisms, or it could be that this witness saw Alec's interviews and was watching the trial. Nobody asked. But it was very interesting to me that he said Maggie liked to be up and mess around with the dogs. And then he also said Paul was the apple of Alec's eye. Maybe that's common in the family. We'll see with the other witnesses. It's just one of those things that's it's noted. It's just noted. That's all. Talking about group text, my dad sent a response to me last week saying, "I'm sorry, you're still stupid to use speech to text." Speech to text, that's so rude. I know several high money people that like their guns. Let me tell you, they know where they are. They are always stored and secure for safety. One of the wildest things we've seen is that there is a very casual way all of the guns are around this property. Question: will Maggie's mother be called as a prosecution witness? I don't think we will see any of Maggie's family be called. Maybe we will, but I don't think so. Question: can Alec Murdaugh get in trouble for saying thank you to a witness leaving the stand? I saw that as a juror. I think that's hella sus. I think they leave it for the jury to decide. It's not been addressed. I don't know if the prosecution perceived it. The thing about a TV trial is they can watch it back, which most trials, you don't have daily transcripts. Most trials, you have to go off your notes and what you remember. Today, they can go back and look at exactly the language during stream. Maybe this stream, they can go back and watch the tape on exactly the question asked by Jim Griffin and have the exact language prepared for tomorrow. So we will see it for sure. Can they recall any witnesses? They might be able to. I don't know if they'll need to. The Utes use Snapchat. Yes, they do. The Utes clearly use Snapchat. I am old. I do not use Snapchat. Can Rogan be recalled? We'll see if they want to. Amy Jo shared this with us earlier. 6/7/21. The sunset at 8:30. Still light out at 8:49. It would still be light out. I don't know if they would have still wanted to be out there. I don't know. Are the flies worse at that time of night? I mean, all the flying bitey things come out as the sun goes down. I don't want to be anywhere. And that's, I think, what we saw with this witness. He said Miss Maggie would like to be out there during the day and then after it was dark. But this is like prime bitey bug time, I think. So the jurors the jurors definitely shouldn't, but the prosecution can. The prosecution can. Are Alec's lawyers as prominent in that community as Alec is? I think my brain is going too fast for my mouth. The lead defense attorney, Dick Harpootlian, I think is more prominent, but Alec Murdaugh, well, especially sitting here today, Alec Murdaugh's family has a longer legacy. Almost 100 years of solicitors. They had to take his granddaddy's picture out of the courtroom. Like his family legacy, the law firm's over 100 years old, PMPED. But Dick Harpootlian is also a legend in the area. He also is a state senator. Like he also has a very big reputation. But Alec's reputation is not all good. So the chat is confirming it's bitey bug time. I think so too. The Honorable Tilly said, I'm from the Low Country. My stepdad once misplaced his AR. He found it under my niece's crib. Gun responsibility is not a specialty down there. That's a terrifying story, but also it just seems to be common. And this is, again, particularly in the US when we have a jury system where your peers are supposed to be the ones sitting on that jury. We have hyper-regional juries, county by county and courthouse by courthouse, because there are people in the chat, and I've seen it day over day, who are like, who has that many guns? And then there are people in the area that are going to be like, that tracks. Yeah, that's what we were doing our hunting property too. And this is why we have local and really kind of hyper-local juries just to that region. Emily, they're not allowed to watch or court TV because none of them have been sequestered. They're not allowed to watch anything. So that's why, that's why the housekeeper's attorney has been subpoenaed and is still doing interviews. Eric is the attorney. I didn't know Eric Bland was on the witness list. They're not allowed to watch the trial, but if Eric Bland's on the witness list and watching the trial, that will be interesting. So that will be interesting. Rob is furious at all the leading at the very end. I don't care about the financial motive stuff coming in or not. You don't get to cross on redirect, especially without a basis, to think he'd know the answers. Not an objection was raised. Also, I think some of those are open answered questions. Did you know about this? Did you know about that? It doesn't, or you didn't know about this. You didn't know about that. It doesn't imply the answer. Well, you didn't implies the answer. I think it was definitely on the cusp. I think it was on the cusp. I want to go back and rewatch it because I was sitting there going, ooh. That's what I was doing. So I need to go back and rewatch. But there was not a lot of objecting. There was not a lot of objecting happening today. IDK James said, investigator with a large Southern PD. I don't do homicide, but assist with initial response. This is a very sloppy investigation. I don't have time to watch the trials, but testify a ton. Thanks for the insight, and the streaming has been informative. Thank you. It's been an interesting investigation. There's definitely stuff they could have preserved sooner. But again, I think it cuts against the defense's argument. If they could have preserved it sooner, yes, but why didn't they preserve it sooner? I don't know. Maybe because they didn't think he was the suspect. We'll see. But yes, there's definitely things where you're like, really? Why don't, really? The yes, Meister. Is it reasonable to claim that whomever the killer is, plus type timeline, they must have known the property well to steal a gun, murder, and leave? And why wouldn't they bring their own murder weapon? Yeah, turning up to a crime scene hoping there will be something to commit a crime there seems really sus. And the thing that seems more reasonable to me is, again, that the jury's going to think he either allowed someone to do this or hired someone to do this, and not that he did it himself, which renders an acquittal on these charges. So, TM, thank you. Hi, y'all. 2,800 in the chat. And I think we probably got some thumbs up. Don't forget to, well, subscribe really first. Is YouTube seems to be more helpful with it. Emily, you're too quotable. How many trucks are there? Where is your folder? There were a lot of trucks. There's one missing. They talked about 4, and then there were only 3, and I was trying to figure out which one was which. They named the trucks. A lot of us name our cars. We've learned what all of you have named your phones and your Wi-Fis over the last few days. On Long Crime, bottom right screen towards the end of the snap, you can hear what sounds like metal cocking, followed by 2 thuds. I didn't see that at all, but I will go back and watch it again. According to my phone, I've walked 15.4K steps today, but I've only shaken my phone. The trick Pokemon Go stayed inside all day. That can happen for sure. Aging myself, but I feel like we need those felt boards from kindergarten. Yes, prosecution slaps elements on the timeline as they unveil it. You're not aging yourself. I love those felt boards, and we definitely need the timeline. The fact that today is the first day they pulled out the big overview of the estate, and we're like, where is this and where is this, is wild to me. They should have done that a week ago. Today was the grocery day, and for some reason I bought nuggies, something I never buy. I'm sorry. I did not mean to influence all of you to be eating all of the chicken nuggies. Apologies. What do you think the judge will say tomorrow? Megan, great question. I would love to tell you. I think the judge will say that the motive is coming in, and I think they will argue about the extent of it, and I think they will kind of slowly go through the prosecution's question versus the kind of Legally Blonde style of, you would have had to defend my client with a gun in her hand to make your story plausible, wouldn't you? It would have to be more than that. So, question, did they report the lost gun to the police? No. They kind of let people know about the lost/stolen gun. They just texted people and let people know. The missing gun after the murders, I think, were discovered that they were missing after the murders. They were not missing before the murders. You just did Elise. I love Elise so much. And I'm so glad all of her videos are on Instagram because I deleted Snapchat. It's not Snapchat. Which one? TikTok. Freaking TikTok. So tomorrow it's going to be very interesting. I predict tomorrow the judge will begin with a deep and swift bring them. No, tomorrow the judge is beginning with motions. So we are going to see what the judge does with motions. Tonight, I am going to work on my roundup and my timeline. Then I am going to figure out why my in-ears are trying to fuck with me. Then I am going to figure out why my pointer is not working. And tomorrow we will be back here at 8:25. I think we actually have like roads that are open tomorrow, so that'll be nice. Unless we don't. So hopefully we have roads that are open tomorrow. Wait. No, maybe not. We got a text. School may or may not be open tomorrow. Well, we'll see. All right. So with all of that, y'all, I am going to go. We are going to talk about all the things. What about Girardi? I'm going to read and process the Girardi stuff. I did a short on it. I might do another short on it. We're not going to have time to do a video on it because A, I don't think I can talk anymore. And B, we have a lot to do. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I want to talk Girardi stuff, but I did a Quick Bits on my Quick Bits channel. If you have not been to my Quick Bits channel, it's linked down below. You can just type in Emily D. Baker Quick Bits over on the YouTubes and you will get there. It's where I put up my shorts and my Quick Bits podcast. And that is pretty easy to find. So if you just go to the YouTube things, Emily D. Baker Quick Bits, you can go over there. And again, as I said, that's where I put up my reels, shorts, and those things. And you should see the Quick Bits podcast on the front and then the reels showing up. Look, YouTube, I am going to stop posting these fucking shorts if you don't let us pick our thumbnail. This is not the face I would ever choose. I would never choose any of these faces for a thumbnail. Let us pick our thumbnails. And it looks like Natalie Lawyer Chick is live. So if you guys want to pop over there, I'm going to be yeeting for the end of the day. Please don't raid her chat, but be sure to say hello to Natalie and the Chicklets, because raids can absolutely be distracting, but be sure to say hi in a kind and sweet way. Natalie's great. So she is live. They're going to be talking about attorney conflict. My podcast is going to be going live on the same subject shortly, because I think I forgot to make it live over the lunch break. So Law Nerds, I will see you later. Have a good one. The podcast will be live tonight. If you need to talk about attorney-client conflict with me, we will be doing that shortly. So with all of that, thank you for being here. Thank you for being Law Nerds. I appreciate you. I will see you back tomorrow morning. I will populate those streams shortly. So good night. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the Quick Bits.